All right, so let's jump into what I would say is the easiest. I think SubTo is the easiest creative finance strategy. I think seller finance is easier for people to understand out of the gate. But once you understand SubTo and seller finance, you'll understand that seller finance is actually more challenging than SubTo. Can anybody tell me why? SubTo is way easier than seller finance.
Because there's a loan already in place.
There's a loan already in place, and so there's nothing for me to negotiate, really, right? What I did with Ashley is I had to go and create the note, and we had to go back and barter on purchase price, monthly payment, interest rate, down payment. On a SubTo deal, I got sellers that literally just hand the keys to me and go, I'll pay the closing costs. Is there anything for me to negotiate on that loan, on the rate, on the term, or am I taking over something that already exists? Right, so the difference would be if Ashley goes, hey, well, I already have a loan on my cell phone. Just take over the loan. Do I have to negotiate anything? Right, so SubTo is actually way more simple than seller finance, but seller finance is easier for people to understand because they're like, wait, hold on. You're taking over the loan in SubTo. There is no loan in seller finance. You're creating, okay, oh, I think I understand this more. So let's go through the example again. What is seller finance versus subject to? The biggest difference between seller finance and subject to is what? Seller finance has zero debt. The seller has zero debt. They own it outright, okay? They own it outright. Okay, and subject to? The seller has a loan, AKA a debt that they owe on the property.
Or a hybrid of the two.
Yes, we'll talk about hybrid in another video. We're just going to talk about these two things, okay? Are there situations where you'll buy it SubTo and seller finance? Of course, we just did that in the previous video, right? But let's talk about what's the biggest difference between seller finance and subject to. This one has no debt. The other one has debt. That's it. I know it sounds crazy. Now, are there steps that are different in both of these? Yes, there's a couple of different steps. Okay, and we'll talk about that as well. Now, let's talk about what a seller has when they have a seller finance home or property or business. The seller, let's just call them Sam the seller, has a deed. Okay, what is a deed? Let's make sure we understand deeds before we move on. Okay, so we got to break down maybe the title versus deed, okay? What is title versus deed? They're not the same thing. Sounds crazy that they're not, but they're not. And this is important for us to go deeper into other conversations. So let's talk about title versus deed. Title is how I hold the property. Deed is who holds the property. Okay, so for example, title would be, well, how are you holding title? Well, I'm holding it in an LLC or a partnership or whatever. That's title. Who's on title would be the entity, but who is the person who owns the entity is the deed. Okay, so it's like, well, how are you, Pace, you have a credit card. How are you holding that credit card? Oh, I hold that credit card in a wallet. The deed would be, it's in my back pocket. Okay, so that means title is what is the structure, deed is who owns the structure. Okay, so let's go through a property. Sam holds title in an LLC. Who owns the title is Sam. That would mean that Sam has the deed. The deed is the certificate of ownership, but the deed can be controlled by an LLC. Okay? So title would be the LLC or the partnership or whatever. Does that make sense? So the deed is the certificate of ownership. The only thing that we use title for is vehicles. Okay? In vehicles, this is where it gets really confusing, and why you guys are confused right now is because in the title and deed of a vehicle, the title and the deed are the same thing. In a house, they're not. Title is, well, I hold it in my LLC, but I'm the one that owns the LLC, so I have the deed. Okay? So when you guys are signing for a property, they go, how are you going to hold title? They don't say who's going to be on title. That's actually the incorrect statement. It would be who is going to be on the deed, and how are you going to hold title? That's probably the right way to think about this. Who is going to hold the deed, and how will they hold title? So my answer would be, I, Pace, will hold the deed, but I will have it in my LLC. So my LLC will hold title. Does that make sense? Okay, title's like the wallet. Deed is who holds the wallet. Now, do we need to really understand this deeply? That's about as much as you need to understand, but there is a big difference, okay? So for example, when we are buying property, what's one of the first things that the escrow company does? Title search, okay? They check for things against the title. Well, do they not check for things against the deed? Of course they do, but the way that this is set up is that you have, here's the box, so this is the title, and inside of that is the deed. This would be a clean title, okay? But let's say that there is also somebody that files a lien or a debt or a bankruptcy or something against the title, and they can actually cloud title. They're not clouding the deed. The deed is owned by Sam. Sam owns the property, but the title is now encumbered, so it cannot change. Does that make sense? Okay, so when we do a title search, we're finding out, okay, we know Sam owns the deed. We know that. However, there's a bunch of people Sam owes money to. They're filing against the title, essentially, okay? Does that make sense? So think of title as like the wallet. The deed is what's inside the wallet, okay? Why is this important? Is because we don't, when you open escrow, which means start the transaction, think about this. Every time you go to the grocery store, I want you to think this way. I want you to go, and this all has to do with seller finance. So people go, why does this have to do with seller finance? Everything. This has everything to do with seller finance. If I go to Costco, when do I begin the escrow process? I do. So I go to Costco. Think about this. You guys open escrow all the time, and you close escrow all the time. I put it on the conveyor belt. I have now opened escrow. That's the beginning of the transaction, okay? So I've opened escrow. Now, who's the escrow officer?
Cashier.
The cashier, and what's their job? Check for damages, and is everything here? Their job is to basically put everything on a settlement statement, which would be your total at the end. Hey, sir, this is your settlement statement. Are you ready to close escrow? Does the escrow officer care where the money comes from? Do they ever really check your ID for the most part anymore? So I could use anybody's money. I could use somebody else's loan. I could use somebody else's credit card. I could use a line of credit. I could use pennies. They don't care how I clear that transaction. The escrow officer, which is my cashier, her job is to clear title, which means, hey, these eggs are damaged. Means there's a mechanic lien. Hey, there's a such and such. Their job is to make sure the transaction is all clear. We itemize everything. That's the escrow officer. They understand the parties involved. Hey, Costco is selling this to you. I'm going to collect the money on behalf of Costco, and we're going to clear this transaction. That would be closing escrow. You've paid the transaction. We've dispersed the money. Escrow has now been closed. You guys open and close escrow all the time. I hated when people said, when are we going to open escrow? I'm like, what does escrow even mean? And then when I got really deep into the business, I'm like, oh, opening escrow means starting the transaction. Closing escrow means ending the transaction, right? So think about this. This is a weird one, but has there ever been a point where you think you're buying all your groceries, and then right before you pay, you go, oh my gosh, I forgot milk, and you run to the back, you grab milk, and she holds escrow open for you? Okay, that happens in real estate all the time too. They'll give you a final settlement statement. So you start the transaction by saying, hey, I'm gonna buy this. You end the transaction by them saying, is this everything? Would you like stamps? Would you like ice? Would you like this? Would you like anything else? In real estate, it's, are you sure this is everything you wanna buy? And you have a final closing document that you sign. So you actually sign twice. Purchase agreement you sign, and then the closing documents you sign as well, okay? All right, is this helpful at all?
Yes.
It is super helpful when you start these transactions, because understanding these little pieces or like the missing piece in my mind of like, wait, so I can just create a note with the seller And who handles that note is the escrow officer, right? Okay, cool. So deed is who owns the property. Okay, so when a seller has zero debt, they have no other liens, right? This is what it looks like. Okay, a subject to deal looks like this. The seller has a title and they have a deed. What's the only thing different? They have an outside lien against the property called a mortgage. You know what this mortgage is called? In some states, it's called a mortgage. In Arizona, it's called a deed of trust. Super confusing. Why do they do that to us? Some states, it's a mortgage. In some states, it's a deed of trust. Annoying. And why do they have to call it a deed of trust, for heaven's sakes, when the deed, real estate's confusing? This blew my mind all the time, where I'm like, well, who has the deed? And they're like, oh, they'd say something about deed of trust. I'm like, what's a deed of trust? Is that the ownership document? But they trust that it's an owner? Like, I don't understand it. Deed of trust is Arizona and other states. You guys can Google it right now in the side chat. What does my property, or what does my state do? Mortgages or deeds of trust? Arizona's deed of trust, okay? Mortgage or deed of trust. Here's the thing is, nobody ever calls it a deed of trust unless you are in that state. So when I'm communicating with a seller across state lines, will I ever use the word deed of trust? If I'm talking to a seller, this is a trick question. If I'm talking to a seller here in Arizona, do I call it a mortgage or a deed of trust? Deed of trust. I call it a mortgage. Why? Because the seller doesn't know it's actually not technically a mortgage in Arizona. It's a seller would never know that. So I use the words that they know, which then confuses new people of like, wait, what's a deed of trust? Okay. All right, cool. So on a subject to deal is the seller has a deed in their name and it's held in their personal name. That's how they're holding title. Okay. Now, if I'm a rich person, how am I holding title? Do you guys know how a rich person would hold title in their personal name? Trust. Okay. Family trust. Do you see now the difference between title and deed? The deed is held inside of a trust, which is what the title is what's written on title. People that buy their own personal homes, some of you guys are guilty of this. You put your own personal name on your personal home, don't you?
Yes.
So you are confused because you're like, well, my deed says my name, but also I hold my title. The title is held in my personal name. So isn't it the same thing? No, it's not. How is it that they have the deed document is in a separate type of holding? Is because they hold title differently than you. Their wallet is different. Does that make sense? They got a fancy Birkin bag. You put it in your pocket. See the difference between title? Rich people hold it in a Birkin bag. Some of y'all don't even know what a Birkin bag is. Some of you men have no clue. Okay, so do we understand the difference between subject to and seller finance? Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes.
So in seller finance, I have to go to Sam, and what do I have to work out with Sam? Okay, I have to work out terms. And what are terms again, my friends? Okay, purchase price, down payment, interest, and length of time. Okay, and there's some ancillary things sometimes, like you can work out all sorts of things that are really interesting mixture here. Like I have a seller that I bought on seller finance about 6 months ago. No payments for year 1, half payments for year 2, 3/4 payments for year 3. I have an escalator clause, which I escalate my payments over a couple of years. That is a more, I would say, creative solution. Seller's like, well, I do want payments. Okay, well, can we do a reduced payment for the first year? So again, it's throwing little ingredients into the conversation and seeing what the seller likes and doesn't like. Somebody's sitting across from you. I want a burrito. Cool. Let's throw in pinto beans. Nope, I don't like pinto beans. Okay, let's take the pinto beans out. Let's put black beans in, right? That's essentially what you're doing, and you're trying to create the thing that their appetite will attack. Yep. Okay, so here with subject to, let's say a seller has no equity. What do I have to work out here? Nothing. Nothing. I literally take over the responsibility of the payments. The payment has already been figured out for me, hasn't it? Wells Fargo already has a loan on the property, right? The Wells Fargo deed of trust. And that deed of trust is $379,788. It has an interest rate of 3.9%. It has 27 years remaining. And the seller is willing to let me just take over the house. What terms did I have to figure out on that SubTo deal? Literally zero. So do you see why SubTo is actually easier than seller finance? The things that get people tripped up about subject to is probably where Ashley's question came from originally. Is like, well, how does that actually work? And when I get to subject to, which is the next video, we'll get into that. And I expect like 5 questions from you, and I will not pull you back on the stage, I promise. Okay, so seller finance, I'm working out these terms. Okay, so let's work out let's talk about a recent seller finance deal I just did. And I'll give you a couple of different examples. Now, I'll give you a single family deal. I want questions, and then I'll give you an RV park deal. I want questions, and then I'll give you a business deal. I want questions, okay? And I'd rather go long on this than go short. I don't want to go, I'd rather, in fact, not even get to subject to today. I'd rather just hammer really hard on seller finance and cover every element of every question you could imagine on seller finance. This one's a fun one because I bought this deal from a SubTo member in 2020. His name is Maurice, okay? He's awesome, still crushes in SubTo. And it was one of his first deals he ever did. It's in Atlanta, so this is Maurice. He's in the SubTo Zooms, he's hanging out with me. He says, Pace, I've got this lead with this lady named Jillian, and she's a London lady and she's intense. Can you call her for me? And this is back in the day where I would literally call SubTo students, sellers 12 hours every Saturday. And I did thousands of calls. Why did I do that, and why don't I do it as much now? I do it now once a month. Why don't I do it as much now?
Too busy.
Oh no, because I built leadership. I built thousands of other SubTo members that can make those calls for you. And if you come to me and say, Pace, will you make the call? It means you've been lazy and only working with one person. Okay, so Marie says, will you make the call for me? I said, yes, I will. And I make the call, and I call Jillian. He says, I can't get her past seller finance. I can't get her past it. She just keeps saying no, 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 no. When a seller says no to you, now he's a SubTo member, but this was a seller finance deal, which tells us what? What do we immediately know if it's a seller finance deal? It has no debt on it. She has it paid off free and clear. Okay, so she says no. What are the only 3 reasons a seller will say no to creative finance? What are the only 3 reasons a seller will say no? Okay, number 1, the way I like to describe this is that you suck at explaining the benefits, AKA they don't understand. Now, why am I a good acquisition person? Why can I close a lot of deals? I'm good at storytelling. People learn through story. They don't learn through technicalities. Okay, what will happen is the story is what sets the glue to make sure that people remember. So when I explain seller finance to people, what do I explain to them? I explain an F-150 story. Who has not heard the F-150 story? You guys have all heard the F-150 story? No. Say, who has not heard it? Raise your hand. Okay, perfect. So this is great. So when I talk to Jillian, I'll explain to you how I overcome her saying, no, I'm not interested, okay? So that's number 1. What's the second reason a seller will say no to you?
Fear.
You have found bunnies?
No. They need the cash now. And I'm not saying want, because a lot of times sellers will say, I want a down payment. I go, but why? And then I get into why. And sometimes it's, well, I'm buying another deal over here, and I need financing for this. Right now, I'm working on a marina in Montana, $7.5 million purchase price. Seller says, I'll seller finance, but I need $3 million down payment. Great, what are you using the $3 million for? Well, I'm expanding a beef jerky company. Cool, so you need $3 million for a beef jerky company. What if I just brought in a finance company and brought you that $3 million for the beef jerky company? Would you do this deal $0 down? She goes, yes. That literally just happened 2 weeks ago. So does a seller really need the cash? 90% of the time, the answer is no. Why? Okay. A lot of times a seller will ask for a large down payment. Why? Yep, you suck at explaining the benefits of working on creative finance and also with you, so there's no rapport. How is it that I can go and get a deal with a seller at 0% seller finance and $0 down? Is because they trust me. Whereas somebody goes, hi, so, right? You start off a conversation that way, is that gonna go well? No, okay. They need the cash now. That is not always true. Most of the time it's actually not. You've done a really, really bad job of asking, hey, welcome to my restaurant. I'm gonna throw in some ingredients here. I just wanna ask before I get cooking on what you want, do you have any allergies, right? Essentially when somebody says, Pace, the seller says they want money now, I go, okay, so what you did is they walked into your restaurant, you started a conversation, and you just gave them dairy. And now they're lactose intolerant and the deal's falling apart and you think it's because they just don't like your food. No, you didn't ask them what they need. And so when you understand this on my seller calls, I spend more of my time doing these things than I do doing anything else. Now the third one, okay, is they have no what? Pain or motivation. So I will see a lot of people that are starting out, what they do is they call on Zillow leads and they've been listed for 10 days. Should I waste my time on somebody that's been listed for 10 days?
No.
Meanwhile, there's people like the Zion Tiny Getaway that was on the market for 400 days and nobody had ever called them and offered creative finance. Newbies waste their time on going on lead generation. They think anything online is a deal when it's not, okay? So they have a lack of pain and motivation, and sometimes this just takes 3 to 6 months. Okay, so you put it in your follow-up pipeline. Okay. All right, so Jillian. Hey Jillian, my name is Pace. I'm trying to buy this deal from Maurice, but he says that you are not interested in seller finance. Can you help me understand why? She goes, yeah, I just want all the money now. I go, okay, but you've been on the market listed at $1.1 million. It's a mansion in Atlanta, Georgia. Big old house, beautiful. It's in Ansley Park. You don't know what Ansley Park is, but it's one of the most beautiful parts of Atlanta. I love this area. This was one of my favorite houses I ever owned. So she wants $1.1 million. She's now been on the market for a little over 6 months. Do you think she has some motivation and a little bit of pain? Okay, so I already know I'm not wasting my time on this conversation. So instead of me saying, okay, so Jillian, you'll get more money if you sell to me on seller finance. Now I'm telling, I'm not giving them story, I'm not actually teaching, right? Just talking at somebody. And basically I would be mansplaining to this woman, right? And that's not helpful for anybody. So I said, amazing, well, I'm probably not a good fit for you, but maybe I could be in 3 months. See how I disconnect? And now she immediately is like, oh, cool, he's not going to attack me on this call. Drops her guard. Am I trying to take advantage of her? No, I just want to make sure both ears are open. And when people's guard is up, both their ears are closed. They're not even going to pay attention to you. I go, well, Jillian, if you don't mind, I'll take like 3 or 4 minutes and I'll explain to you why I could be a good buyer for you in the future, but why I'm probably not a good buyer for you today. What I do for a living is I acquire properties without using banks because they're slow, without using credits because banks will limit me to how many properties I can own, even if they cash flow, and without using any credentials. I'm not a licensed agent, I'm an investor. And not using my license or anybody's license saves you a lot of money and both of us a lot of hassle. So that's the mode that I like to buy. And if you don't mind, I'd like to give you a couple of benefits of working with me just in case I'm the buyer that you can put in your back pocket that gives you confidence to come back to after you can't sell it on the market. You see what I'm doing here? Okay, so when you're like, well, you got to understand, I can save you money on taxes. I can do this for you. You're going to get more money. You're going to lose every time. Ladies or gentlemen this lost on most of the time. When a man takes you on a date or whoever takes you on a date, and the first thing they do is offer to marry you on the first date, what's the answer? No. What the freak are you doing? Meanwhile, new people will call and pitch, just throw every ingredient. Well, what about SubTo? What about seller finance? What about Morby method? What about this? What about that? You're asking them to marry you without actually showing them any value. And if you're a smart man, what you do is you take these women on a date and you build rapport with them and trust, and you explain what life could look like together, not by talking about it, but talking about your life and your interests and asking her about her life and her interests. Why is it that I'm willing to go and ask somebody on a date to marry them, but then I'm also not willing to spend any time with somebody who's going to give me $1.1 million in seller finance? How we can work together. I just think that I can offer just blindly. That's not how this works, right? So bunnies, rapport, bunnies, rapport, bunnies, rapport. Okay, so Jillian says, absolutely, let me know. And so now I'm disconnected. If somebody believes, think about this, the last time you were on a phone call and you felt like somebody was trying to close you, what were you thinking the whole time? How do I get off this call? Right?
Yeah.
Okay. But when I tell Jillian, hey, Jillian, actually what I'm going to tell you right now will empower you to get better offers from other people, and you can always come back to me. Do you see why she's going to dig deeper on this call with me? And guess what? I'm better than all her other offers. This is not a ploy, a marketing trick. It is legit. I'm the better kitchen. I'm the better chef. I have more ingredients. I can bring more to you. And if you really want a cash offer, then let me give you a full price offer at 1.1 million. Let me tell you why I'm willing to pay that so that you can go to your other cash offers and go, I already have an offer at 1.1 million, so if you're not willing to hit this number, then don't waste my time. Is Jillian now bought into this conversation with me? Did I even bring up creative finance yet? Do I already have her attention? Do you see why new people are like, I'm really struggling to get a deal? Because what they're doing is they're just submitting offers, okay? Creative finance is asking somebody to marry you financially. Jillian is going to have to collect payments from me every single month for 20 plus years if I do a seller finance deal. Is this a small ask? No, it's a big deal, right? Okay, cool. So I go, perfect. So Jillian, I buy with something called terms. And then I pause. Okay, so it sounds like you might not know what terms are. Do you mind if I explain what terms are? She goes, yes. And I go, okay, cool. Let me explain in the way I've bought and sold other things. So years ago, Jillian, I was a contractor. This is how I explain seller finance. I've done this maybe 1,000 times in my life. I can tell this story word by word, and a lot of SubTo members will take this exact story and utilize it to go close deals, and they'll DM me or message me and go, I used the F-150 story and I got the deal done. Okay, so you have permission to use this however you want. So Jillian, years ago, I was a contractor, and I had this F-150, okay? And this F-150, I know it's horrible. It hit a point where I had 300,000 miles on this truck, and it started having little problems that I just wasn't willing to deal with, and I wanted to sell the truck. Now, of course, the truck made me some money. I really liked it. I saw the value in it, but it was causing headaches. Guys, what is she also dealing with on a property? The exact same thing. Do you see how I'm drawing an analogy? Cool. She says, okay. I go, so it hits 300,000 miles. I go on the website that tells you the value of your product. Where did she go to come up with her $1.1 million? Zillow. She did not come up with that price on her own. She went to Zillow. She saw what her neighbors sold for. That's where that value came from. That's also how 99% of real estate agents comp properties, just FYI. Tell me I'm wrong, agents. I know. So like most agents that have become unicorn agents, they've done 100 transactions and go, oh my gosh, like I now know how to comp. In the retail world, most agents don't know how to comp because they've never bought a property. So it hit 300,000. I go to Kelley Blue Book, which is the Zillow for cars. And I asked Kelley Blue Book, what should I sell this for? And Kelley Blue Book told me, Jillian, $5,000. And I just didn't feel like that was what my truck was worth. And so I went out and I put my truck out on Craigslist, much like you've put your house on the market, for probably what I want rather than what it's actually worth. Because we already know what the property is worth is what a buyer's willing to pay for it. But I wasn't willing to listen to that. You see how I'm basically making me into her? So I put it on Craigslist for $10,000. And Jillian, after a couple of months, I received 0 offers. And I didn't even receive anybody like sending me a message saying, are you freaking out of your mind? Like literally it went nowhere. I reposted it every 3 or 4 days. I got 0 inquiries because obviously Kelly Blue Book says it was worth 5, but I was trying to sell it for 10. So after a couple of months, my wife comes into my office. She says, hey, sweetheart. So every day I have to kind of move around that truck to get into the driveway. I don't mind it. It's not a big deal. But is there anything I can do to help you sell that truck? I go, I might just go fix it up myself, which is also what a lot of sellers say. They go, well, I might just fix up the house myself and keep it, right? So the way I overcome that objection, preemptively, I overcome objections before they show up, is I said, I told my wife that I didn't want to fix the truck because I knew my time was more valuable somewhere else. And so I said, no, I just got to sell it. I just got to sell it. My wife says, well, you're the creative finance guy. This is where I establish that my wife even knows I'm the creative finance guy. Why don't you just take payments for the truck and see if you could sell it then? Jillian and every seller is going to go, oh, take payments. So I'm like, wow, my wife is a freaking genius. So I go back to Craigslist and I said, hey, I go, Jillian, I changed nothing. I changed nothing except for this. I said, will take payments. Do you think I sold that truck for $10,000? Jillian's like, wow, probably. I go, I actually sold it for $12,500. And I had to turn my ad off because I had so many people hammering me. Contractors that were like, I could fix that truck myself. I'll give you $5,000 down payment. And I ended up selling it to a gentleman named Jose. He gave me $1,000 down payment and he made me $350 payments all the way until it was paid off. And he charged me I charged him a little bit of interest. By the time this was all the way paid off, I sold my $5,000 truck for around $15,000. So Jillian, this is terms. It helps you get to the number you want by also giving people like Jose or myself the ability to get into the vehicle, fix it up a little bit, and make it worth my time. And while some people would argue that Jose overpaid for my vehicle, he also didn't have to use credit. He didn't have to go through a bank. He got it done within a couple of days. And I got tamales every single Christmas from his family for about 4 years.
And he could use it for work.
What Jose ended up doing is he ended up putting 4 men in this truck and painting houses every single day. Jose taught me over those years I was collecting payments. He would drop off the payment every single month at my house, $350. He taught me that he turned around and made this truck generate about $25,000 a month in revenue for a $350 monthly payment. Did Jose overpay for this vehicle? No, because the value of a thing is never the purchase price. The value of a thing is what I can do with it and how I can get into it with as little money as possible. That's the value. So Jillian, I believe I can get you your 1.1 million. But if you want me to get to that number, we got to work out an F-150 deal where I can get in as little money as I can, turn this into something that makes enough money that I can pay you a monthly payment. Did I just explain seller finance without even bringing up the word seller finance?
Bingo.
This is why I'm the best in the business, is because I understand and I respect human beings. These sellers are not in our community. They're not learning creative finance. And so for you to expect that these sellers know this stuff, or even real estate agents, is mind-blowing that you would ever even bring up the word seller finance terms or anything. And when you do bring up terms, notice I paused and I waited for her to go, wait, what are terms? And then the only technical thing I even brought up one time was that my wife said I was the creative finance guy. That was as technical as I got. Do you think I'm going to win a lot more conversations than when I'm sitting there going, well, you know, I know seller finance and creating notes and splitting the note and arbitrage, substitution of collateral, hypothecation. That's a word in creative finance that you should never have to learn.
Acceleration of payments.
Okay? Does this make sense?
Yes. Definitely.
Do you see where everybody goes wrong? So here's what I did with Jillian. And this is where seller finance happens. Jillian and I worked out a deal. She goes, wow, why didn't Maurice tell me that? And Maurice is watching on a live Zoom going, he's in the side chat. I told her all of this. I'm like, no, you didn't. You didn't tell her a story that she could understand. You told her technical things, that you could make payments to her. And you told her you could pay her interest. And you told her, and it just goes over their head. And you also told them that you're trying to sell them on the idea rather than help them out. So Jillian and I worked out a deal, and I owned this property for 5 years. From 2020 to 2025, I sold it last year. I bought it for $1.1 million. Seller gave me $0 down payment and no payments for 6 months. Why would she do that? Because I told her I needed to fill the property and start generating revenue so I could get to the monthly payment she wanted, okay? This is a big property. My monthly payment to her, I believe, was around $6,000 a month. That's a hefty one. I turned this into an Airbnb. Why do I not own this property anymore? Because Airbnb is outlawed now in Atlanta, Georgia. Okay? Airbnb is outlawed in lots of places. Las Vegas, Scottsdale, outlawed. Like, you can own one if you're licensed and you let people live in your house. Okay? Crazy, right? So again, this is another point I want you guys to remember. I would never call myself an Airbnb investor. I would never call myself a midterm rental investor. I would call myself I'm an investor. Whatever makes sense in the moment, I'm going to acquire. I'll set up systems and processes for make money. You can say, hey, I'm an investor, but right now I'm focusing on Airbnb, but don't ever mentally commit to a strategy because the world will change. Co-living wasn't even a thing 10 years ago. Now our community is 60% of all pad split deals online. That's insane. Okay, so, all right, so this is my terms. She gave me 3% interest on the deal, and she gave me a 10-year balloon. Balloon. Ooh, okay, this is where maybe a little bit of education is required. She gave me 30-year payments, so she based my payment based on 30 years, but after 10 years, so here's my 30-year mark, it would be paid down to 0. Here's today. She says, whatever you owe me on year 10, I want you to pay me all the way off. How can I pay that off? That could be one. I rarely do a refinance, but after 10 years, do you think I need to do a refinance and keep the property? Well, what if it's a great property? I'm going to tell you my own personal opinion about this is that if you are still doing the same strategy 10 years later, you should fire yourself. You should have upgraded. You should be on year 4 going, gosh dang it, I can't wait until this property sells so I can 1031 into an RV park or a business or something else. This property ended up selling for $1.5 million after only 5 years. And I took that extra $400,000 and I 1031 that into an RV park that makes way more money than this house ever did. So I created equity out of thin air with no credit, none of that stuff. Cute freaking house. I love this little house. It wasn't little, it was like 8,000 square feet. So I could pay it off. I could pay it off with cash if I'm a lunatic. I could do a refinance. Okay, but if you're doing a refinance, which I do like refinances on larger assets, but if you're doing a refinance on a smaller asset like this with smaller margins on the cash flow, guess what will happen? Is if I'm planning on a refinance, do I know what the interest rates are going to be at that point? Right, so I don't know. So one of the best things to do is just say, I'll plan on selling it. And if you sell it, you use 1031 it. Make sense? Yes.
Someone once mentioned that if you're buying something doing the 1031, then whoever you're trying to buy the property from and they know you have the 1031 that you got to do, then that kind of actually puts you in a little bit of a bind or pressure, like they have the upper hand.
Yep, so we have a whole entire like tax course inside of SubTo that I would suggest you watch when you're ready for this. But what you're basically saying, Shelly, is you're saying when somebody knows your seller knows that you're selling 78 Maddox and you have $400,000, you're rolling into this deal that they're selling to you, a couple of things will potentially happen. Number one, they'll go, gosh, I hate this because your timeline, I'm selling this deal, my timeline has to match up here And that really does not sit well with a lot of sellers because I will push forward or backwards the close of escrow date to match up my 1031. There's a time restriction here, okay? That's number one. Number two, when this seller knows that this buyer has $400,000 and they have an urgent situation to make sure that the price or the $400,000 rolls into the new deal, because the 1031 is a very urgent situation. I have 90 days to get this thing done, okay? So that seller, knowing that you are in this situation, will take advantage of you. They'll sell it at a higher price. They'll mess around with you because they feel like they have the upper hand. So I want you to write this down. You don't ever have to do a 1031. You can do what's called a slow 1031. Okay? Slow 1031 or a delayed 1031. What does that mean? It means that I sell her property and I finish the transaction and I do not do a 1031 at all. Instead, I have $400,000 sitting in my account. I did not use the old school methodology of 1031. I then use that $400,000, buy a property, do a cost segregation, take the tax benefits. That wipes out all my tax gain on that previous thing. Make sense? Most of what I do is a delayed 1031, okay? Why? Here's the problem with the 1031, and I won't go too much into depth here because this is obviously off topic. On topic, off topic, right? Do you have a question about the 1031?
I was going to ask, is that part of that tax segregation, the 1031?
Cost segregation is on a new purchase.
Yeah.
1031 is a 1031 exchange. Basically, here. Let's go through it real quick.
So you had the terms, and then you said you'd pay it off in 5 years. The balloon.
She wanted 10 years, but yeah,
But you could pay it off.
I can pay it off whenever I want.
Ah.
Yeah, you have no obligation,
Okay.
right? This is a weird one. Okay, this is a really weird analogy, but I hope this helps. I was dating a Swedish foreign exchange student here at ASU. I knew that she was going to move back to Sweden. So the conversation we had was, let's pretend like I'm not moving back, but you need to know that this is ending when I do move back. But let's treat it like this is going to go on forever. So essentially, it's like a 50-year relationship, but it has a 7-month balloon.
A delayed 1031. Yeah. Yeah.
Welcome to real estate. That's what a balloon is. So the mindset is, I'm going to dig deep. I'm going to get to know you. I'm not going to ask questions that are, I'm not going to prohibit myself from actually opening up to you because I'm thinking this is going to end in 7 months. So I'm going to treat this like a 50-year relationship. But I know it will end in 7 months. Okay, cool. So think about this. If I have a 7-month balloon in this relationship with this Swedish gal, she's going to move back to Sweden. Does that mean I have to break up with her only at 7 months, or could I break up with her in 2 days? Right. So same thing with the mortgage. Jillian says, give me a 10-year balloon, but we're going to treat this like a 30-year payment. So the payment's going to be low enough. Okay, by the way, I have seller finance deals where the seller gave me 50-year payments with no balloon. I'll tell you a good story. The next one is a multifamily deal. Okay, that guy, I could call Mario right now if he sold me multiple properties. So Jillian learns what seller finance is through the F-150. She goes, yeah, but I'm kind of older. I'd really like to just have it all paid off at 10 years. I go, no problem. Let's just set the payments up based on 30 so I can afford the payment. And then over the 10 years, I can choose when I sell it, or I'm forced to sell it or refinance at year 10. Now, something that we do inside of SubTo, write this down, is we put in a balloon extension clause. What does that mean? That means that what if the property is not worth what I bought it for 10 years from today? The balloon would automatically extend another duration, so another 10 years. So let's say this is something I created about 13 years ago. This is where we as a community have really made creative finance a thing. And I say this out on YouTube and people are like, oh my gosh, that's so genius. Guys, I got 1,000 things like that. So in SubTo, our contracts, when you are buying a SubTo or seller finance deal, your contract, you'll want to make sure you write in there saying, if the property does not appraise appraise in 10 years for what I bought it for, we will automatically extend the balloon an extra 10 years. So am I worried about the property value going down,
No.
up, left, or right? No. Okay, these are that alone is worth the price
Yeah.
of getting into SubTo, right there. Okay. All right, so 10-year balloon. I only owned it for 5 years. Why did I only own it for 5 years?
So,
Moved on to bigger
Let's say that again.
things. You moved on to bigger things.
I upgraded myself. And you should too. Nobody's meant to have a portfolio of single family homes for 50 years. Now, this is where people will mess up, is they'll go, so I should just skip single family? No, are you kidding me? All the things I know from single family, the relationships, the resources, the skills, the ability to close transactions, so many more transactions are happening in single family than will ever happen in RV parks, mobile home parks, businesses, et cetera. These are infrequent transactions. These are like, holy crap, 1,000 deals are closed every single day in single family. So if you want to go where there's more transactions, go in single family. Right? This is where I started SubTo in 2020. We primarily focused on single family. We set the foundation. We started growing and growing and growing. So do I still do single family deals?
yes.
I do. I'll buy probably 15 a year, but primarily only in Maricopa County. I still have 180 plus rentals all over the country. I'm getting rid of most of them and consolidating. Why? Is it because I made a mistake? Or is it because I've grown and you
Agreed.
evolve your portfolio, right? Okay, so on the 1031, real fast. The property, so this is day one. I sell the property. Okay, so in a 1031, I have a very specific timeline on a 1031. Shelly, this one's specifically for you, okay? So I sell the property, and when I'm under contract with my new buyer, I know I'm gonna get about $400,000 on my line item when I sell Maddox. So what I'm going to do is I'm then going to have to identify a new property, and then I have a very specific timeline to make sure that that money goes from that transaction to that next house. And guess what? I'm not ever allowed to touch that money. Where does that money go in a 1031? It goes to an intermediary. There are 1031 exchange intermediary companies that hold that $400,000. I am technically not able to take that $400,000. So now think about this. Let's say the timeline is 90 days. I'm simplifying this for people that are watching this in the future because this is not a 1031 exchange class. I have 90 days to identify and close that transaction. Are there transactions that will cancel for whatever reason and blow up my whole timeline?
Yeah.
Are there times where the seller, I've got a deal right now on an RV park where the seller's playing games with us. We were supposed to close 2 weeks ago, and all my money, all the deals, I've signed off on the deal, and the seller's playing games, and they're wanting more money. And so now I'm having to sue the seller on a big RV park right now. It's welcome to big stuff, right? What if I had a 1031 going into that deal, and then the IRS says, oh, your timeline didn't match up. You now have to pay your taxes on that 400 grand. Here's what happens with people that follow a 1031 exchange process. Is they buy bad deals because there's a timeline associated with having to allocate that $400,000. And when the seller plays games, you're like, whatever I have to do to close that deal to not pay the taxes, I will do. So 1031 exchanges are actually not a great strategy when you realize what goes into them. Most high-level investors do not actually do 1031s unless the property they're going to buy, they're paying it off in all cash. If there's other transactions like, okay, my 400 grand's going in there, but I'm also getting a loan, and I'm also doing a such and such. There's too much complexity here that will destroy the deal. Make sense? So most of the 1031 people are really high level. I have a $5 million 1031 that's going into this asset to pay the asset all the way off. So there's no complexity because I can't afford complexity and blow up the timeline. So what do most people actually do? Is we don't do 1031 exchanges. What do? On paper, I just close the transaction and I have a $400,000 taxable gain. Make sense?
Yes.
So then what do? I then go buy a property that's a good deal on my own timeline. And then I go and do a cost segregation. And that cost segregation gives me enough tax benefits that wipes out that 400 grand plus. So why do I really ever have to do a 1031 exchange?
You don't.
This is 1031 exchanges have their place, but most of the time not for like small stuff. You just learned something magnificent that took me 15 years to learn. Okay, seller finance. Any questions about the seller finance stuff? No? I guess I should go to the side chat. Anybody have questions in the side chat today? We got 400 people in SubTo in here. What if you don't buy another property for 12 months? Then you are lazy and slow. I don't know what else to tell you. So these terms, the reason why seller finance is way more challenging than subject to is because now I have to determine all of these individual terms. You want to hear the craziest thing I did with Jillian? In my note, so I'm on a live Zoom with SubTo members. And I was teaching at the time 6 years ago, still teach the same thing. Here I am repeating stuff that's already in the vault that you have access to that you won't watch. You notice I'll keep saying that 100 times? Okay, so the funniest thing about this transaction is that I had all these SubTo members on this Zoom, and I said, do you guys want to see how crazy I can get with creating a note? Remember, we just created a note with me and Ashley, right? What I did with Jillian is I put in the promissory note that every time I went to Atlanta, Georgia, she had to pay for my dinner with a +1. It's in the recorded document on the county recorder's office that on the promissory note, she had to write in, Jillian, I can't remember her last name, owes Pace Morby a steak dinner at a restaurant of his choosing with one friend. So every time I'd go to Atlanta, I'd text her. She would then call the restaurant. She'd pay for my dinner with me and Jamil. And Jamil's like, I cannot believe she just paid for our $500 dinner. I go, I put it in the promissory note.
Did she cap you?
I didn't use it as much as I should have. I did it just like to flex. I didn't actually need it in the deal. I did it in a way where it just made sense, right? And there's a lot of deals that you'll see, there's people in SubTo where the seller really wants people to take the property off their hands. I only have one deal I've done this on. We have a lot of students that have done this, where the seller pays you for 2 years out of their pocket to take the property off their hands.
So I understand that if you buy a property and it's SubTo, I get that. And if you don't make your payment, they can take the property back. I understand that. What about if you don't make your payment for like 6 months? Like how are they, like if you mess up and you're not making payments or you're overstretched or whatever, how is the seller going to know that and take that property back? Like, wouldn't it affect their credit?
On a seller finance deal?
Yeah.
On seller finance, there's no debt. So how, if I don't make payments to the seller, they just don't collect money in their bank.
Oh, okay.
Do you see how often this comes up? There's no way I could damage a seller's credit on a seller finance deal. Zero possibility.
Oh, okay. All right. Thank you.
Do you really understand that?
Yeah, I do.
Are you sure?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Isn't that amazing that still comes up, guys?
To know what about in a SubTo deal?
Okay, that's in the SubTo video. I hope you know that I'm doing seller finance right now. Now, we could always ask another question about seller finance. I think about another question is how is the seller protected in a seller finance deal? Forget about the credit question, right? They still have things at risk, right? A seller in seller finance has things at risk. What's their risk? Let's talk about their risk. You don't make payments, right? That's a risk. What's another risk? You damage the property. What's another risk? Anything else? I mean, you guys are the ones that are always asking the what if questions. You'd think you'd actually have some examples.
They don't let you sublease and you do?
Okay, so you have to take over bad tenants. Okay, bad tenants. What else?
Who holds the insurance?
Okay, so that's a different question. But the buyer, the owner, holds the insurance, and the seller is as an additional insured. Do you think we have a dedicated insurance Zoom all about this inside of the SubTo vault? Ain't no probably about. Homeboys spent 6 years hammering this hard. You guys act like this is the first day you've heard about this stuff. And maybe you have, and that's cool. But I have my insurance company came in and actually taught the exact way to handle the insurance. The way this is handled on a seller finance deal is that at title, I have a new policy, a new insurance policy. Okay. Now you have another question at title. I'm gonna hit in a second. So this is really good that you're bringing this up. So insurance policy, I go get a new insurance policy. Why? Well, because what if the house burns down? Do I want the check going to the seller? No, I want the check coming to me. And I've had this happen to me where a flood happens and I have to go to an insurance claim and the insurance company won't talk to me. This is back in like 2014, 15. And I'm like, crap, why did I did something wrong? So I had to create all these processes years ago. And so the way we do this is we just go to SubToAinsurance.com and they just handle it for you. And I had to go to that insurance company and go, let me just show you exactly what needs to be done. So new policy, this SubTo Insurance will help you on SubTo, seller finance, lease options, whatever you need. New policy, seller is added as an additional insured. Why? Because what if I die or something bad happens, they can still get the policy taken care of. I'm the deciding factor, but if I die, they can still get the policy, okay? There's more intricate parts to this deal, but where could I go get more information on the insurance side? In the vault. Just type in SubTo Insurance and you'll pull up like 5 videos that I've done in the last 6 years that are not on YouTube, okay? Now, at title, that is when that policy comes into effect. I do not close on a seller finance transaction without a new policy. So this is where the transaction coordinator comes in. They help transact and coordinate this. What's another thing? So you had a question of like, how does the seller know you are not making the payment? Well, that's in a SubTo transaction. You're thinking I'm making the payment and the seller's not aware of it. We 100% of the time should be using a servicing company. And the companies that I use are Evergreen Note Servicing, and there's other ones in the vault. You can type in Note Servicing. Del Toro's a really good one as well. There's about 1,000, I'm not exaggerating when I say 1,000, it sounds like I am, but I'm not. There are thousands of servicing companies, okay? So how much does that cost you per month to have a servicing company? And what does the servicing company do? Well, a servicing company takes the money out of my account every single month. So if you look at my phone and I type in Westar is who we use a lot, okay? By the way, your transaction coordinator will know this stuff. You guys sitting here taking notes like it's gonna matter. It won't. Okay, Westar customer support, okay? So you will see all of these, you can't see this. Let's see if we can go here. Go to this camera. Of course.
Oh, you had it.
I had it. Let's make it not so bright. Okay. So you see all these receipts?
Yeah.
You think I have a lot of Westar?
Yep.
What are these? These are monthly notifications that not only go to me, but they go to my seller that says I made the payment. So your transaction coordinator will set this up for you before you close escrow. The cost to set up with a new servicing company is usually like $100. The escrow officer, your transaction coordinator, will make sure that everybody's up and going. So the seller will receive an email to whatever email they want. If the seller changes their email, that's their problem. I'm not going to babysit you. But they want to know when the payments are being made. You have a servicing company, really simple. When does the payment come out? The payment comes out 5 days before it's due. Okay, so they get paid 5 days before. That's how I do it. I set it up where it's 5 days early. It's taken out, it's paid 5 days before the payment's due. They get an email saying the payment's been paid early. Servicing company tracks the taxes, the insurance, they do all of it. They pull all the money out of my account and they disperse it. They'll even pay the HOA. They'll even pay your PML. Okay, so all the money comes out of your account when you have that payment and it gets dispersed by the servicing company. Okay, why are there thousands of servicing companies? Thousands. Because every mortgage on the planet is serviced by a servicing company. You just never knew that. So every Rocket Mortgage, Chase, Bank of America, all of these companies hire servicing companies to handle all of this stuff behind the scenes. It's so common, it's ridiculous. It's just a whole entire industry that you didn't even know existed. Okay, so do you have the question answered of how does the seller know you're late?
Yes.
They'll know 5 days before my payment's due that I made the payment, and if they're really concerned about it, they would know 5 days, they would know on the due date, hey, I haven't seen my thing. Okay, cool.
There are people that don't do that though, right?
Yep, there's cheapskates that don't do that. And I think it's disrespectful to the seller, and the way I teach is to do it the right way. But the problem is you get a lot of people in the community that get like 200-300 SubTo deals and they go, dude, that's like, think about that. That's like $4,000 or $5,000 a month I'm paying in servicing fees. I'm like, yeah, but you have $800,000 going in and out of your account every month. What do you care about $3,000? Just do it the right way, right?
Yeah.
So do it the right way. Hire service companies. Costs a couple $100. Upfront fee, $17 every single time. Okay? All right. Does that answer that question?
Yes.
Now, does that actually protect the seller? No, it does not protect the seller. What protects the seller?
The note.
Okay, that doesn't protect the seller. That helps protect the seller. Okay? This is really good. I'll give you the answer of what actually protects the seller. Okay? The promissory note, obviously, what Ashley is saying, promissory note is very important. We got to make sure that all the agreement, everything we write in the promissory note, okay? So what we talk about, promissory notes are actually really short. They're usually 1 page or a page and a half. So what we did, that note we did earlier, it's actually short. Then you have a secondary document called the mortgage or the deed of trust. They're not the same thing. Promissory note, okay, and the deed of trust, they go hand in hand, okay? So you have to have both documents. So the mortgage document is like thick. It's all the things that would happen and all the regulations. And if you don't pay, I'm going to take the property back. And here's the way I can take the property back. And if you try and file bankruptcy, there's all sorts of things that basically lay out the rules of the game, okay? Promissory note is here's the game. Mortgage is like here's the rules of the game, right? It's like that big pamphlet. I could read every single thing. Does this make sense? Okay. That's what you've been looking for?
Yeah, like when you say promissory note, my brain goes like I need like the details.
Yeah, so the promissory note's only usually a page and a half. I have a lot of Zooms about this where I walk through my promissory notes. This is not on YouTube, it's only inside of SubTo. And then the mortgage or the deed of trust. In Arizona, I'm doing a deed of trust. In other states, I'm doing a mortgage, right?
A dozen pages.
What's that?
It's like a dozen pages.
It's probably more like 80 or 90 pages, actually. It's very thick. And both of those documents actually get recorded at the public recorder or the county recorder's office. So they actually get recorded. Now, does that actually protect the seller? Yes, I guess. It kind of gives the rules of engagement. But if the seller's like, that's not good enough, I don't trust you, okay? The first thing I tell people when I'm structuring a deal with a seller, the number one thing that protects the seller, sellers don't want to hear this, but it's true. And neither do real estate agents. Number one, okay, number one thing to protect a seller, give me a good deal. If you know I'm making money on the property, then why would I ever default? It makes no sense that a buyer would default on a property that is actually making money on the property. Where you see people defaulting is because they set up a bad deal and the seller pushed too hard on them. They're like, fine, I'll make it work. Don't make me buy a bad deal, seller. And so sellers, I did a whole YouTube video about how a seller should sell on seller finance. And I tell the sellers, the number one thing that you should know is my buyer making money? Now, let me give you a little bit of a paradigm shift here. Who is the customer in this transaction?
The seller.
So you go to Walmart and you buy off their shelf and they're the customer?
Oh. Yeah, excuse me.
Who's the customer?
Yeah, the buyer.
Remember that. Do you see how easily you got tripped up there?
Yeah.
People go into negotiations with sellers, agents, brokers, whatever they want to be called. By the way, I talk as if I don't respect agents. I do this very intentionally. I want you guys to understand this. I want you guys to not be afraid of agents, even though I love and respect agents and I love working with them. I need you guys to not have this, holy crap, you're a licensed person. They know nothing. They know less than you do. At this point, you know more about real estate than 99% of real estate agents just from the last 3 hours. True, I'm not exaggerating, okay? So the buyer, I'm the buyer. I'm buying the product. I'm coming up with money. I'm bringing this together to own the thing. Who is the customer? Then act like it.
Yeah.
What happens is a lot of people are groveling Hey seller, will you sell me, what are you talking about? Do I go into Walmart and go, will you please sell me this deal? Hey Target, will you please sell me this makeup for my daughter, please? No, I'm the customer, right? And so the seller needs to understand that you are the customer. So think about this. Ashley, you have clients, right? For your cell phone business? You're selling phones, right?
No.
What do? You buy and
Sell trade collectibles.
Oh, collectibles, sick. Okay, cool. Would you buy and trade something that's a broken collectible knowing it? No, right? So if my seller is not aware of how I'm making money, that is a problem for the seller. So I tell sellers all the time, the number one way to protect yourself is to know that I am actually going to make money. If I'm not going to make money, I would also be as worried as you are. So when sellers say, well, how do I know that you're going to make the payments? I go, well, the first step in knowing I'm going to make the payments is ask the question of, are you going to make money on this, and understand how? Because why would a buyer buy the deal? The buyer is buying the deal to make money. And if you're squeezing out every penny out of the deal, and you're making my interest high, and you're making my payment high, and you're making me have a short balloon, then you should expect me to default. Why would you give me a ticking time bomb? So I say this to sellers on phone calls all the time. They're like, well, yeah, how are you making money? And I explain it to them. They go, wow, okay, so that's why you're asking for 0% interest or 0 payments. Exactly. I need to get this deal up and going. I can give you what you need. So the number one way to protect the seller. So think about this. A seller sells to me in option A. No paperwork. But I'm making $5,000 a month net off this deal. Seller B sells to me with all the paperwork, but I'm making $300 a month net on the deal. Which one is actually in greater risk?
B.
So it has nothing to do with the paperwork. The paperwork is a cherry on top. The deal structure is actually how you protect the seller. You getting a good deal is actually what protects the seller. I'm not taking advantage of the seller. I'm trying to give them the number they want.
Would you normally disclose your
That's
deal?
great.
Always.
Okay.
Not normally. I ask the seller on a lot of my calls. You guys need to go watch some of the calls in the vault. I say, do you mind if I tell you how I'm going to make money on this?
Okay. To create that trust.
I mean, I'm asking for a partnership with them, right? I'm asking them to sell or finance something to me. It's a partnership, right? You know, it's just like getting married. You're going to give your life to somebody, ask them to have children with you. It's a pretty significant conversation. You should say, this is what I hope to do with my life. This is what I'm hoping to do with such and such. Here's where I think I'm going to go. I think I'm going to make 1,000 mistakes, but I'm going to be one of those people who follows through with everything I say. You're essentially auditioning for them, right? And this is where people really fail to have this conversation of like, here's what I'm doing, here's how I'm going to do it, and here's what I think are going to be my problems. You want the seller to want you to make money. You are not trying to hide the fact that you're making money. I want the seller to know that you're making money. One of my sellers, his name is Eric, a big deal, one of the next deals I'll talk about. Eric sends me an email every 6 months. He's like, saw a YouTube video about the park, man. So freaking awesome, so great. Da, da, da. Love collecting those $18,000 payments. Thank you. You want your seller to believe in you and what you're doing. If you're hiding this from your seller, you're going to have a hard time getting really good terms. Make sense? Okay, maybe I'm a weirdo. I think I have PTSD. I have been divorced before, and I did not have a lot of upfront conversations in my first marriage about having kids. I turned 24. Mormons get married early. I got married at 21 in 364 days, so I was like almost 22. Got married. 4 years later, my wife's like, yeah, I don't want to ever have kids. Well, that was a pretty important conversation we probably should have had before we committed our lives to each other. So I go on a date with Laura, and I go, all right, so here's what you got to know about me. I'm dating to get married. If you are not interested in getting married, don't go on a second date with me. I want to have children, and not 1 or 2. I want to have 3 or 4, maybe 5 or 6, depending on whatever. I am a workaholic because I love what I do. I'm hyper passionate. I come from a family of 8 sisters and 3 brothers. And I'm used to having women around me. If you ever get jealous about that, don't go on another date with me. If you have a jealous bone in your body, don't get around me, because I have a lot of friends that are females. And I grew up with a lot of females. I also hire a lot of employees that are females because I think they get things done. So if you have jealous bone in your body, then don't go on a second date with me. What was her reply? Can we order dinner first before we talk about this? Like I was so, and you guys think this is not part of the topic. This is so critically important.
Yeah.
Upfront conversations, expectations, right? What did I do when I started the training today? I want you to ask questions. I want you to do this. I want you to do this. I gave you an expectation. I also told you I don't take breaks. Have you seen me take a break?
No.
You can take a break. I'm not taking a break. Okay? So again, number one way to protect the seller is make sure that you are making money and you express how you're making money. Well, Pace, I don't know how I'm making money yet. Then don't buy the gosh dang deal. What are you doing, right? Okay. Another way to protect the seller. You guys ready for this? This is going to go over some people's heads. You ready for this? My technical thinker? You ready for this? Then don't sell to me on seller finance. Wait, what? Please pay attention. I prefer seller finance over what I'm about to tell you 10 times to 1. But there are other ingredients in creative finance that we're not going to cover today. We're going to cover in other days. Those ingredients are thrown in when somebody's allergic to this. I'm allergic to milk. Great. I'll bring in coconut milk, right? So seller finance, I prefer seller finance. Why? Because in seller finance, the deed goes into my name. I have the deed, which means if the seller wants to take the property back, guess what the seller has to do? They have to foreclose on me, spend money, and get me out of the property, take the property back over, and spend 6 months getting that deed exchanged back into their name to get that ownership. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Why is that not a good thing for sellers? Well, because it costs them time, energy, money, and anguish, right? Cool. So if you can't overcome that, you haven't convinced them that you're making money, you haven't built rapport, you're not established enough, a wonderful creative finance strategy, insane, but please don't go to it until you've already checked all the boxes in seller finance. So don't sell in seller finance. Well, then how would I do it? Well, A, I could do a lease option. B, I could do a dating contract. Pace, I don't know what a dating contract is. I know, I invented it. C, an executory contract. Okay, there's 3 other ways that you can sell the property. The difference is the deed does not go into my name on these 3 transactions, and we will cover them later in other videos. I use these strategies all the time. Can I tell you when? Seller sells to me on seller. I work out a deal. Okay, I have a deal, and I'll tell this story again, but I have a Montana home. Do you guys know I have a home in Montana? I bought this home for $3.7 million. Okay, the structure of this deal, seller's name is Bob the builder. Okay, Bob has a house listed for $3.7 million. I'm gonna start with telling you the structure so that you can say, why would the seller do that? Instead of what I would normally do is I would explain what the seller's going through, then tell you the structure, and you will then understand when I tell you the structure. And that, like when I teach the story in the right order, seller's going through X, Y, Z, P, D, Q, da, 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 da. So you put the property on the day, and the da, da, da. And then when I tell you I bought the house for $1 down payment and actually never gave the seller $1 down payment, you're gonna go, why would the seller do that? That's what I'm gonna do right now. Normally I would tell you all his pain points, but there are pain points, and you're gonna have these unlocks, okay? Do you know how many times I've ran into a seller with the exact same pain point as another seller? Probably never.
Oh.
Retirement might be like a common thread, but there's a reason for retirement that's different. Retirement is a reason, it's not the bunny. There's a bunny. The bunny is, I got cancer. I want to sell and move to Tennessee is the reason. Cancer, terminal is the reason, or is the bunny. Does that make sense? There's a difference. Okay, so Bob sells to me for $3.7 million. The structure of the deal was 2.1 million SubTo. We haven't even talked about SubTo, but here we are talking about SubTo. 2.1 million SubTo, 2.9% interest, pretty good rate, right?
Yeah.
$1.6 million seller finance. 0% interest. Down payment. $1 down payment. I'll tell you why the $1.
Legal.
Because his attorney is so uneducated that his attorney's like, no, it's illegal to do no money down. That's not true. People do no money down all the time. What he was referencing, he's so uneducated. What he's referencing is it's illegal to have a contract without something called consummation or something that makes the contract real, which is EMD. So EMD is legally required to have a valid contract, but not a down payment. Does that make sense? So if I take the contract, I open escrow and I go to the title company, I put $1 down, I put $1 EMD down, and then we close escrow and I get my $1 back, that was a legal transaction. So the attorney didn't know the difference. Surprise, surprise, you'll find out. I know this sounds egotistical and I sound arrogant, but the reality is I've been doing enough that I know most attorneys don't even know what they're talking about. Okay, this is a pretty good deal, right? How much is it cash flow? Important thing for you to remember and write down. Please write this down. People who live in houses don't care about cash flow. So when you find a non-cash flowing deal, which you will, who's the buyer for that? Somebody looking for a primary or secondary. Okay, do you think we have a lot of people in our community that will buy deals from you that don't cash flow? Lots. We have people that go, hey, I'm looking for a house in Pennsylvania. Does anybody have a SubTo deal in Pennsylvania? Do they care if that thing cash flows? No, they're making babies in that house. They're not thinking and calculating cash flow at all, okay? Why is this important? Because a lot of people in the outside world that are on the stupid YouTube land, they go, oh, it's a SubTo deal that doesn't cash flow. So it's not a deal. I'm like, keep thinking that, because our community is selling non-cash flowing SubTo deals and seller finance deals all the time. Who are we selling them to? End buyers or each other, all right? Okay, why would a seller, my payment's high on this. Do you guys want to know what my payment is, or do you not care? Do I care what my payment is on this? Do I care?
Yeah.
It's a secondary home for me. Do I care?
Probably not.
I don't care. I want to have a second home where my family can go, create memories, and people with second homes do not care what their payment is. People that have the ability to afford a second home payment do not care about the cash flow. Do I care about the deal? Oh my gosh, have you guys seen my property?
Yes.
I swear to you, it's like God put a pin drop right in Montana and he's like, here, you can buy this on Creative Finance. It's incredible. Okay, my payment on this is 17 grand a month, including insurance, taxes, everything else. So I pay a couple $100,000 a year for a property that sits empty 8 months out of the year. Welcome to people who have money. All of my friends have 2 or 3 houses. This is common, very common. In fact, all the people I know in Montana that have second or third houses, they sit empty most of the time. You guys know neighborhoods in your area that most people are second homes, correct? This is common. I say this because somebody watching this in the future is going to go, but does it cash flow? No, I don't want it to cash flow. I even thought about, like, what if I Airbnb this? And at some point you make enough money, you have enough businesses where I still have it. It's an Airstream, and I would go, well, I have $1,000 monthly payment on this Airstream. You guys know what an Airstream is? Cute little metal RV. And I go, I don't want to make the $1,000 payment. So I rent it out on like Camp Pendium or whatever it is. Somebody comes in and rents it from me, and they back up into a cinder block wall, scratch the whole side of it, and the insurance company gives me like $3,500 for a $10,000 repair. Okay, so then I'm dumb. So what I do is I go, let's try it one more time. So I go and rent it out, and it comes back to me, and somebody left all their sex toys in my RV. And my wife goes, so, do you want to keep renting this out? I was like, no. So the $1,000, it was like an old mindset I had of like, gosh, I don't want to pay the $1,000. At some point, it's okay to lose money on things when you make enough money, right? I have business expenses, or I fly first class because my company makes enough money. Why would I go sit in the back seat and save $75 or whatever it may be? At some point, you think differently. So the same thing on the second home. This house, I thought about maybe doing like an Airbnb on it 8 months out of the year. But when do people want to be in this house? when I want to be there. And so for a couple $100,000 a year, it makes sense for me. And by the way I built this is the next story I'm going to tell you, the RV park pays for this entirely. So I have an RV park that's about 15 minutes away from there. Jen works there, park manager. I bought it on pure seller finance, which ties into the seller finance training. And Jen manages my house, and the money I make from the park pays for all of my costs in my house. So I have a free house from that RV park, if that makes sense. Then I was like, okay, cool, I got a free house. Now let's buy a second park and a third park and a fourth park, and Jen manages all of those. And now those 4 assets make me 60 grand a month after my payments made on my house. So do I care if it's cash flowing or not? No, I don't. You know what my favorite part about that is I never thought I'd live in a life that I could text Jen and go, hey, I'm gonna fly in, my family and I are flying to Montana. And she knows what that means. It means go to the house, pick up the car, drop it off at the airport. So I walk out, my family walks right into our car. And then we go home and the fridge is full with all of our stuff. Beds are all made, things are cleaned. What pays for that is the RV parks that she manages. I'm like, how cool is that little freaking feature? It's so cool. Okay, so I did not buy this. What we would call this is a hybrid, okay? Why would we call this a hybrid, friends? It's a combination of a couple different ingredients, right? Okay, but the seller did not trust me. And I'm pretty good at building trust.
That's a lot of money, though.
It's a lot of money, yes. And I'll tell you part of the reason why he didn't trust me was actually his wife. And that's a good answer. You can't trust anybody. You can, with good documentation, you can. Well, that means you trust the paperwork, don't you? I guess you're right.
You told us to not trust your grandma.
I don't trust my grandma, and she's dead. I still don't trust her. That lady gave me a candy addiction my whole life. Lemon, just kidding. I love her. So they didn't trust me. So how do I overcome this problem? I want the deed in my name, friends. I want the deed in my name, so I'm pushing and pushing and pushing. So what I did is I converted this from what my original thought was a hybrid, and I converted this to a dating contract. What the heck is a dating contract? A dating contract, which I'll go in deeper in another video. I'm just giving you ideas of what happens when a seller's not willing to seller finance to you, and also what happens when the seller doesn't trust you, and what happens if the seller says, you can't overcome this objection I have that you are gonna not make my payments. What's easier for a seller, foreclosing on you or evicting you? Evicting, okay? So I said, why don't we do this, Bob? Let's do this hybrid deal. This is our marriage. We're gonna get married into the hybrid deal where the deed goes in my name. Follow me here, because I've told this story before and it confuses people when I don't tell you to follow me here. Hybrid, this is my structure I want to do. In this situation, the deed goes where? Your name. Goes in my name, right? Why? Bob already says he doesn't want that. Following me? But this is the end result I want. Follow?
Yeah.
Okay. So I want him to marry me. I want to marry him. The deed goes into my name on the marriage. Follow?
Yeah.
Okay, so Bob, what would get you to trust me? I don't know, Pace. I don't know. And I go, well, what if we do this? What if we date for a little while? What if we do a lease with an option to buy, and that option is the hybrid structure? So I date you for 2 years, so I'm leasing the property. If I make all my payments, all of those payments are applied to the purchase, just like as if we got married on day one, but I will prove to you that I can make those payments. How much time would that take for you? 12 months? It was, I don't know, let me talk to my wife. And his wife says, oh, wow, that's really smart. Let's do 2 years. Okay, so what I do is I start the transaction, okay? I start the transaction with a lease option. Guys, lease option is gonna be a 7-hour class. Honestly, lease options are like one of the most powerful things you're going to learn in this community. You think you came in here to learn SubTo, you did not. You came in to learn all the ingredients. I did almost nothing but lease options for 7 years. It's one of the most powerful strategies on the planet. So what is a lease option? Just real quick, and we'll do a deeper dive later. A lease option is actually a lease in one document and an option in a separate document. What is an option? An option says, I have the ability to buy this property under these specific terms. The only way I can execute these options if I fulfill my obligation of the lease. So I'm going to lease the property from you for 24 months, 21 months, 18 months and 3 days. You can determine whatever these things are. And when I execute my option, we then go to the full hybrid where the deed goes in my name. But on a lease option, is the deed in my name?
No.
Why do I not love lease options for me?
Taxes?
Because you don't hold the deed.
Okay, so back in 2018, I bought a property from a seller on lease option. So the seller holds the deed, right? Seller dies, okay? Well, no, even on a lease option, I use a servicing company. So I'm not worried about the payments going to the bank. Good call out. What happened was their sibling or his kids came and contested my lease option. Why would they do that?
They want more money.
Because they realized I got a great deal. And so they went and were like, oh, you took advantage of our parents, this, that, and the other. Guess what? I record every conversation I have on my phone. This is crazy about me. I'm a lunatic. I wanted to be the best negotiator on the planet. And so what I did is I recorded every single appointment I've ever had in my life on my phone.
How do you get people to agree to that all the time?
I don't. Welcome to living in Arizona. I don't need permission. Just put that shit in my pocket. Arizona is a one-way state. So I only, as long as I'm party to the conversation, I can record anything I want without permission. Yeah, that's why I live here. California, y'all are crazy out there.
When I felt like I was breaking the law.
Okay, so just so you guys know, please understand the depreciation is there on a lease option. So back in 2022, I hired an IRS auditor. He now works for me. His name is Brandon. And Brandon and I created a way for you to legally get your tax benefits even on a lease option. So everybody in here, please look at me right here in this camera right here. You can get the tax benefits from a lease option. I helped you guys out. There are 3 Zooms where Brandon, our CPA, who used to be an IRS auditor, shows you exactly how to do it. We are the only people in the world that know how to get tax benefits from a lease option. Nobody else on YouTube land. Just that alone is worth hundreds of thousands of dollars of being inside the SubTo community. The right paperwork on that one little thing alone. Okay, but why don't I like lease options?
Because you don't have the deed.
I don't want somebody coming and contesting my transaction when they hold the deed. Okay, so you guys have who's never been in a lawsuit? Who has been in a lawsuit? Raise your hand. Okay, who's been sued? Okay, Phil, you've been sued?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, when you get sued, okay, sued is our, Phil, what would you say is your job description?
Me, I'm the asset manager and I guess you could say project developer as well.
There you go. That's why I'm confused, because like you're multi-talented.
There it is.
So Phil, when somebody sues you, who spends the money on the first go round?
For me, like from a lawyer perspective, I have to retain the lawyer.
Well, when you're defending yourself, but when they start the lawsuit,
They pay.
there you go. So understand that when I have the deed in my name and they want to come and contest me to take that deed out, who's spending the first check? They are. When they contest my lease option and they won't release the deed, who has to sue who? You. I now have to sue them and spend money out of my pocket. Okay, the number one deterrent for lawsuits is making sure you're not the one that writes the first check. Write that down. Tattoo that on your butt. Whatever you got to do. The number one way to protect yourself against lawsuits is make sure you're not the one that has to write the first check. Okay, because when you litigate or you open up a lawsuit against somebody, you're usually putting $5,000, $10,000, $15,000 just to start the conversation around litigating somebody. So when they contested me, all they had to do was this, an email, a free email. Hey Pace, we noticed we're taking over the property. We are no longer going to we're not going to, what's the word? Honor. We're not going to honor this lease option. We believe If you have a question, please contact our attorney. Who has to spend the money? Do I want to buy on lease options when I don't have to? So I'm going to say this again. Do not go be lazy and go to a seller and go, I'll just buy on a lease option, because you can get all the benefits of owning the property, tax benefits and otherwise, if the lease option is set up properly. But why don't I want you to buy on lease options when possible? I don't want you guys having to have people contest your lease option. Make sense? Okay. It worked out. I had to sue them. Cost me $7,000, and then they had to pay my attorney's fees, and they didn't have the $7,000, so they didn't pay the attorney's fees. Right? Welcome to business. You want to make millions, you got to spend some money. Okay, cool. So on this deal, we understand why I did a dating contract. I've now owned this property for 2 years this month. So what do you think is happening?
Deed's going into your name.
The transaction is completing this month, or not this month, May. Yeah. So I want to teach you something. There's a couple of ingredients you're going to learn. You're going to learn lease options in a separate video. What video are we currently on right now?
SubTo.
We're still on seller finance, my friends. Okay. Then we're going to go to SubTo. Then we'll go to lease options. Then we're going to go to, actually, we're going to go third. We're going to go to hybrid. And then fourth, we're going to go to something called executory contracts. An executory contract is an umbrella term that is like contract for deed, land contract, agreement for sale. Lease option is technically an executory contract. What is an executory contract? An executory contract is a contract that has still not been executed. It still has an element inside of it that needs to be executed and finalized. So a lease option is an executory contract. Why? Because I have a lease with an option, which means that I have not executed my option. There's still something lingering out there. So an executory contract means there's something still lingering in the transaction that we're waiting for a future day to finalize that transaction. Does that make sense? Yes. So you'll learn that in the next series of videos, because I know we won't have time to get to it today. Have I taught executory contracts, lease options? I probably have 700 hours in the SubTo vault just on lease options. I am obsessed with lease options. I love them. Okay, so I did the contract as a dating contract. Can you write anything you want in a contract stating, Pace, the buyer, will have a lease. Pace will pay the lease payments. If Pace makes the lease payments on time every month, 24 months in a row. By the way, there's some other words. Obviously, I'm making this up. After 24 months, Pace will be able to convert this transaction through his option agreement into a hybrid transaction, which is taking over the property subject to and seller finance. With these terms, all of the payments that Pace made along the way will be applied towards the seller finance portion, and the purchase price actually goes down. Right? All of these things get figured out. Does that make sense? Do we need to worry about that, or is that something that when we take action, we run into a thing, you raise your hand on a Zoom, or you go to a transaction coordinator or somebody on my team, and you go, I need help with this, and they'll walk you through?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so that is where you protect the seller. So is the seller protected in this situation?
Yes.
So when a seller an agent or somebody says, but how is the seller protected? I already told you. Number one thing is the buyer actually making money? If the buyer's not making money, no matter what paperwork you have, you're not protected. Period, end of story. Them making money keeps them honest and motivated to keep the property going well, right? And that will ease into my next story here in a minute with Mario on another seller finance deal. So is my buyer making money? Also rapport, all of those things. And if you can't overcome these things in a seller finance thing, which rarely actually come up, out of 10 seller finance deals, maybe one seller's like, I don't trust you. It's pretty rare, okay? But when you get to that point and you can't overcome it, what do we do? Well, that ingredient might not work for you, Mr. Seller, but what if we throw this in? The problem is, should we throw in these other ingredients right out of the get-go?
No.
No. So this is where the art of creative finance happens of like, I want to test this for a little bit. And here's the other reason. Let's say I'm just starting the conversation with a seller and we're talking about seller finance. And a couple of things pop up where I'm not building, they're obviously not trusting me. What are some things I should do? Should I be throwing in separate ingredients? I should ask more questions. I should bring in maybe a partner. I should ask Pace or somebody else in the community to come in and have a call to establish credibility. Usually, the best way to build rapport is what? Establish credibility. When people know you can execute on the transaction, you got rapport. Okay? Ashley, you said you're an agent? Like acting? Not so much. Okay, so other agents in the side chat. The number one thing when you talk to a broker, they care about is whether you can fulfill on the contract. They don't want to go into contract with you because they're like, oh my gosh, now whatever I say yes to you, I have to say no to everybody else. How do I know you're the right person, right? They want to know you can actually close, okay? So then, after you've built rapport, you've had some laughs with the seller, and the seller says, well, it sounds like we're not going to be able to overcome this. You go, well, I have another type of transaction that could really work, but doesn't happen as often. Would you be open to having another conversation about another element? And then you throw that out after you've already built rapport. Why? If you throw out all the options, well, what if we do seller finance? I don't trust you. What if we do lease options? I don't know. What about an executive contract? What about an agreement for sale? What a land contract? Is that going to overwhelm the seller?
Yes.
Okay, and a confused mind says no. So focus on one thing. Then when you come to the table after a couple of weeks of going back and forth, you can then start throwing some other ingredients. By the way, am I talking about single family on some of these things? Single family, I can do a SubTo deal in 14 minutes. Like, go watch The Vault. You will watch me call a seller, talk to an agent in 14 minutes. They're like, take this house off my plate. Single family is like completely different story. It's taking candy from, not a baby, but it's like, they're just like, take the house, I don't want it. Larger transactions that we do in the community, they take a little bit more rapport, a couple more weeks, okay? So when you're working on single family, I honestly don't need rapport, I just need to be the person that solves the problem, okay? All right, so you don't want to be throwing these things out too early. Any questions before I go into a second story? Yes?
What were you saying about like my credibility? You're like the broker wants to know that they're like pre-qualified or like, you know,
No, the
that they're
broker
gonna
will
be
never
able to
ask. If you're
execute.
asking for creative finance, the broker will never ask you to be pre-qualified because obviously if we're not going through a bank, what pre-qualifications? What they want to know is, do you have the ability to manage the asset and execute on the transaction? I think I was driving and I was like doing it while I was driving. She says, hey, I've got a deal where they need to see our last 3 transactions close and settlement statements. So what did I do? I just texted my settlement statements to the member and owners club and she went and took them and got the deal under contract. So sometimes they just want to see that you've closed transactions. So this is why being part of a community is what I wanted to build, not some stupid mentorship and some stupid course, right? People that watch me on YouTube think, oh, you're selling a mentorship. Are you freaking kidding me? Mentorships are a waste of your time. You're gonna run into situations where a broker is gonna ask you for proof of funds. Who's gonna give you a proof of funds? I'll give you whatever you need.
When you give them the document showing like your previous
Oh, we'll put it in my
purchases,
name.
Or what about the person, like you're showing credibility for someone else?
Yeah.
So if you're not truly teaming up with them on the deal, then how would that be? Like, how would you use your
Okay,
statements?
so it doesn't mean that I have to buy it. What it means is this. So I go to the seller. Seller says, hey, I need credibility. How do I know you guys can actually operate on this park? I'm happy to step in and go, hey, use my credibility until you find out who the real partner is. And so they use my credibility to start working and getting the financials, start doing whatever. I then can make a decision at that point going, it's not really a good deal for me. Why don't we sell it over to Dave Lisi or so-and-so or so-and-so or so-and-so, and they just take my spot. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So the most important thing is just stepping in and going, hey, I have somebody credible that justifies me asking for financials or asking for X, Y, and Z, and then you can make the determination of what to do once you get it under contract, if that makes sense. Okay, any other questions about this? Are we learning a lot about seller finance?
Yes.
Even the questions you have that are not about seller finance, have I wrapped them back into seller finance,
Yes.
even when you want to deviate me away from seller finance?
Yes.
Ashley, have I done a good job giving you technical and stories? Your questions are freaking valid. They're all great questions. I just want to make sure that you guys understand I'm not deviating and all of this is seller finance conversation. Okay, so we talked about Jillian. Okay, single family house. I'd say one of my best deals I've ever done, structure-wise. And I'm not going to talk about this deal too much. I've done this story so many times, I'm not going to waste your time on it. Seller paid closing cost. $0 down payment. 0% interest, payment is $350. Rent of existing tenant is $1,600. And the seller did want a down payment, but this is how I structured it, okay? This is seller finance. I'm not leaving seller finance for a while. I'm going to stay on seller finance. I want to show you multiple structures. Seller gave me $0 down, but she wanted $10,000 down. So what did I do? I want to teach you one important lesson here. She would not give up on the $10,000 down payment, and I did not want to give her any money. Could I have? Yes. How did I get her the $10,000 down payment without getting her the $10,000 down payment?
You got money from the group and you got 10,000 more. Just gave it back to her at closing?
No, good question, or good guess though. So here's what I did. I take over an existing tenant. Okay, she has an existing tenant in the property. She was not good at collecting rent. She's managing properties herself. Okay, so, and by the way, this is called a tired landlord. There's 17 million tired landlords in the country. Do you think you're going to run into this? I'm going to say that again. There's 17 million of these people. Do not ever think that this is a rare situation. I could buy one of these deals every single day. If you guys ever come into the No One Left Behind challenge, we call 30 people and we get 3 or 4 contracts and 30 calls. Like it's so, single family is so easy to get a deal today. When people say I haven't done a deal, guess what they're really saying? I've literally done no work. That's it. It's so easy to get these deals. Okay, $1,600 tenant. I set up a payment with Dale and Susan Poyer. Dale and Susan Poyer for $350 a month. How did I base my payment with Dale and Susan Poyer? Did I go to Bankrate? Did I get overly technical? Did I ask ChatGPT or Claude, please give me a monthly payment based on blah, blah, blah? What did I do?
Ask them what they need.
I asked them what they needed. If we were going to do a seller finance deal, we bought it for $110,000. Where did that price come from? Zillow. I gave her Zillow price. That's what she wanted. I did no money down, 0% interest. She was getting offers from cash buyers at like $55,000. I've told this story a lot, so I'm not going to go into the depths. This is cash buyers got to buy that at 55. They put 10,000 into it. They flip it for 110. So I said, if we were going to do this deal, I'm going to give you the number you want, but I need $0 down, principal only. I never say 0% seller finance. I say principal only. And we got to figure out a payment that makes sense for you. She's like, whoa, wait, I'm definitely not doing no money down. Couldn't get past it. And she says, I'm not going to give up on this. I go, okay. How about this? How about we close escrow? And in 6 months, I give you $5,000. And then in 6 more months, I give you another $5,000. She goes, okay. So we write in the promissory note that I buy it for 110. My down payment is spread out over 12 months on top of my 350. So who paid for the down payment? Her tenant. So $1,600 a month. By the way, I've done this dozens of times. A lot of SubTo members do this all the time. $1,600 a month minus her 350 payment, minus another, I think it was like $250 in miscellaneous expenses of like property management, blah, 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 blah. So what am I making every single month? $1,000 a month net. I still own this property. When I bought this, the price on Zillow said 100. I bought it for 110. So I paid 10 grand over what Zillow price was. What do you think it's worth today?
160,500.
No.
I think it's worth like 280.
Yeah.
And I have only paid a principal payment to Dale and Susan. No balloon. It's a 20-year payment, and I've paid down like probably 20 grand or something. So if I'm paying Dale and Susan a $5,000 monthly payment, 6 months and then another 6 months, how much money have I collected after 6 months?
6,000.
So where did my down payment come from?
The rent.
So can you structure your seller finance down payments even from the cash of the deal? Do you see why seller finance becomes really challenging? Because there's so many ways you can negotiate and so many levers you can pull. It puts people to sleep because you're not in the middle of a transaction. If you get into a transaction and you start playing around with this and you're like ingredient, start playing with it, you start figuring out like, oh my gosh, I'm so powerful. I can make all sorts of stuff happen. Seller is not relenting on the down payment. No problem. What if we do a down payment over the next 24 months on top of the payment I make you? Play around with it. Ask how can I get to the 110 to make this work, make sense for me and make sense for you? There's always an answer. I've never not gotten an answer.
It's a good way to word it.
Never once have I ran into a transaction I could not structure that made sense for the seller and me. Okay?
Very important.
So, did she get her $10,000 down payment? Did I have to come out of pocket?
No,
No. Is she happy with what I did here?
totally.
Why would she sell this property?
She's tired.
She was collecting the rent. It turned out it was a family member. It was causing a lot of problems in the family. She was so stressed out about it. So she's like, we're just going to retire and go around the country and rent RVs. And I go, how much does it cost you to stay in an RV park every month? She goes, $350. I go, why don't we just make the payment so you never have to have rent? She said, we could do that. I go, yeah. I did the F-150 story with her, which I've done thousands of times with sellers. Dale and Susan was like, the F-150 story, she's like, tell me where to sign. That sounds awesome. Okay, so this is seller finance. Beautiful. You have a lot more. When you are not as artistic and you are not as creative, seller finance will become problematic because there's so many things you can do that you're not even aware of. Like stacking in my down payment and having the tenants, bring the cash for me. That's crazy, right?
Now, did you call it that on the contract? Did you call it down payment or did you call it balloon?
We call balloon would be the end of the transaction.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
Yeah, the balloon is the end of the relationship.
Okay.
Okay, balloon is always pops like a balloon. It's over. Here's a great seller finance deal. I think I have an hour. This is great. I will not get past this. I will not get past seller finance, I don't think. The only questions you should have about seller finance at this point is when you have a deal and you say, I have a question about this deal. Everything else you should be learning is on the job, right? Taking the action, doing the deals. Okay, Rosewood Apartments. I bought these apartments for $3 million, 0 down payment, 4% interest, 50-year term, 0 balloon. Why would a seller sell to me that way? It's 30 unit apartment building, brings in like $25,000 a month. My payment to the seller is about $8,000.
Taxes?
Generational wealth. So here's the conversation. It is retirement to a certain degree, but it's generational wealth. So Mario is an immigrant, and he learned creative finance in New York City long time ago. And so he bought a lot of his properties on seller finance. So he understood creative finance. And he wasn't willing to do seller finance. He's like, I need the money right now. Okay, cool. So it wasn't that I was trying to educate him on what seller finance is and what the benefits were, but I had to change the way he was thinking about his payments. So the deal was listed on Crexy. Broker sends it to me. I go, it's overpriced. I would do it with seller finance. He says the seller's not interested in seller finance. This goes on for months. So you'll hear this all the time. Please listen and look at me. You're going to hear this so many times. Seller's not interested in seller finance. If you hear that, I've already told you the reasons why you're hearing that. Okay? So don't make me rehash it. I've already said the 3 reasons why they won't sell to you. And the number 1 reason is because you suck. I also am the same way. I've had so many problems where I'm like, oh, I'm going too fast. I'm not building rapport. I have to remind myself too. So a couple months later, SubTo member brings it to me and goes, hey, I talked to the seller. He's out of contract with the broker. He is interested in seller finance, but he wants to talk to the buyer. Cool. So SubTo member, by the way, made 30 grand on this deal, just bringing the deal to me. I fly out to San Angelo to meet with Mario. Why? Mario says, yes, I'll do seller finance, but I need to meet you eyeball to eyeball because I need to know I can trust you. Cool. So I fly to Dallas, drive 3 hours to San Angelo, sit with Mario in the parking lot, recorded the conversation. Also, there's a 19-point checklist that Mario gave me of 19 reasons why he sold to me. And those are also in the SubTo vault as well. And the whole interview, like after I closed escrow, Mario's like, let me tell you. And he also came on and did a Zoom with SubTo of like, you guys have no idea how beneficial this is to sellers. You guys need to go and help people like this, blah, 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 blah. A lot of SubTo members will use that testimonial to send to other sellers and go, hey, watch this. This is a seller that our community has helped. So I'm sitting there with him. We're in front of his Escalade. And the reason I tell you this is my style. A lot of people will work their underwriting, their spreadsheets, their offer, their Claude, their ChatGPT, and they'll waste all their time. I will literally never underwrite a deal until I've talked to the seller. Waste of your time. Waste of your time. Waste of your time. Waste of your time. Have you guys ever seen somebody online? Maybe I'm one of them. You've seen somebody online, and you're like, I hate that person. And then you meet them, and you're like, oh, they're not that bad.
Or the reverse.
Yeah. Sometimes it's the reverse. Okay, cool. So I just know that when you get molecule to molecule on these deals, that you're going to get a lot better of a deal. Okay. Also, I learned when I was in the single family game from 2013 to 2018 that my conversion rate was 30% more closes at 30% less of a price when I was in person. Significant difference. Wow. Yeah, it's massive. So I meet with Mario. I go, hey, let's go sit down in the office. He goes, no, I don't want my employees knowing that I'm selling the property. So let's just hang out on my Escalade. So he's running his Escalade. The engine's going while we're standing next to it. And Escalades are a little bit loud. And every couple of minutes, the air conditioning kicks on. I'm like, bro, just turn the air conditioning, just turn the Escalade off. He goes, I can't. My son's in the car. And people don't think these are important details. These are such important details. So Mario says, yeah, my son's in the car. I go, dude, there's a playground right here. Like, we could just sit by the playground, turn the engine off, and just chat through the deal. And, the people in the office won't know that you can just say I'm your friend. And he's like, my son doesn't want to get out of the car. He hates this property. Okay. You guys are like, okay, well, where's the spreadsheet? Tell me the spreadsheet. Tell me the numbers. Tell me the numbers. And so I said, oh, interesting. Why does he hate the property? He says, well, let me put it this way. 2 years ago for his birthday, my wife asked him, what do you want for your birthday? He was turning 11. And he said, I want Dad to love me as much as he loves that building. He's like, so I need to get rid of this property. I just need to get rid of it. And then he says, I go, ooh, that's intense. He goes, well, it's way worse. For his 12th birthday, which was about 6 months ago, which is when he listed the property, I had a tenant emergency, and I missed one of his baseball games. I had to drive from Austin to San Angelo to solve this problem, and I missed his baseball game. And his birthday was like the week after. Same thing. What do you want for your birthday? Mom asks. He replies and he says, I just want Dad to care about me as much as he cares about those people he's constantly solving problems for. Said it in his own 12-year-old way. And Mario actually kind of got a little bit emotional. So he's like, it's important for me to sell this property. I'm managing, I'm switching out the wax rings, the toilets, the this, the that. I'm managing my team. I'm doing all this stuff. Most of your landlords are going to be doing the same thing. They never learned how to delegate. They're what we call accidental landlords. They made money as CPA or a doctor or a lawyer or whatever, or they made money in a different business. And so they put money in real estate because they go, oh, there's tax benefits. Do you think they learned how to delegate and build a team? No. So now they become future tired landlords. Okay, 17 million of them are in the country. They're like, get me out. Okay, so I said, well, why don't we do this? And we were going back and forth on terms. And I said, why don't we do this? Imagine if you're dead, you've passed away, your son, who I know you're selling this property for, in 40 years, and I'm trying to work out not a 30-year term, but a 40-year term. I go, in 40 years, your son, who's now going to be 52 years old, gets his final check from me on the 40th year, and it's an $11,000 check, which is what the payment was that I was trying to work out at the time. Gets an $11,000 check 40 years from now, and it's just a constant reminder how much his dad loved him, even beyond your passing. And Mario starts crying, and he goes, tell me where to sign. But he goes, I want to make this even better for you. Thank you for opening up my eyes. I thought I'd just give my son all the money, but I actually think that there's a monthly reminder to my son that I built this property for him, and that he gets a monthly payment. He goes, I want it to go until he's over 60. So he suggested the 50-year terms to me after I told that story. So I tell everybody, like, bunnies are the most important thing. It's the emotional reason why people sell. And people that have a lack of emotion and are technical and analytical will get their ass beat by me. I will beat your ass in this business. I just care more. I care more about the seller. I care more about their outcome. I care about their kids. And everybody else is like, ChatGPT, tell me a great price to give to the Meanwhile, I'm over figuring out, how do I make sure your son gets a check every month? He suggested it. We went from $11,000 a month to $8,000 a month. And I got a 50-year term on the deal. No balloon. Okay, this goes from a seller that says, I don't want to sell on seller finance to, how about we do 50 years? So the property was probably worth like 2.8. I paid $3 million, but I put no money down, 4% interest, and I got a 50-year term. Did I overpay for the property? I only would have overpaid for the property if I brought my own cash and I went and got a loan at a higher interest rate. That's it. Okay? So when you guys are working these deals, it's the same thing with the Zion Tiny Getaway. The two girls that bought that Zion Tiny Home property, they came from another real estate community that just taught traditional submit offers, submit hundreds of offers every single day, and you're bound to get one. And I teach differently. I think you should submit offers. I think you should start conversations, but I think you should really understand why people are selling. Otherwise, why should you choose me, right? And the biggest thing that they said at the park that I took away was, we found the seller's bunnies. And if we hadn't gone from RAIN, they were in RAIN, which is a women's only investing network. They left RAIN, came into SubTo, and they were like, this opened up our eyes and our ability to structure deals opened up. And what's fun about it is I don't feel like I'm trying to lowball everybody. Now, do I lowball people? Yes, I do. I gave Mario a cash offer too, but the cash offer was 1.9 million bucks, which is what the price should have been at a cash offer, right? Yes, go ahead.
How do you
determine value?
Yeah, how do you get someone to open up with you? Like, I know when people call me about my house, you know, I'm not necessarily willing to give them all my pain points.
You're not a good prospect. I wouldn't waste 2 minutes on you. I'm being honest.
There's no like line or like trick or like a way that you would use to try to get someone to open up to you?
No, I don't like tricks and I don't like lines. I know what you're saying. But I think new people need to understand that, like, people go, well, what's my script? You guys should watch like 100 of my calls. I start almost every call the same way. I don't introduce myself. And very rarely will you hear me go, hi, I'm Pace Morby, I'm an investor. I also what's the name of my home buying company? Do you guys know what it is?
No, actually.
Nobody does, because it's a stupid thing to bring up. Hi, I'm Pace Morby calling from easycashbuyers.com. Just wanted to call and see if you wanted to sell your house for cash. Click. Yeah. Right, so when I call somebody, usually the number one line I use is, hey, catch me up to speed with the house. What's going on? How's it been going? Have you guys been getting offers? Why do you think that is? Okay, cool. And then when I find there's a pause and they're like, why is this guy on the phone? I go, do you mind if I tell you what I do for a living and how I buy houses? And then I open up, I tell them what I can bring to the table. And I start out by saying, I'm not most people's buyer. And chances are I'm probably not a good buyer for you today, but I might be a good buyer for you later down the road. But either way, I'll be a great relationship for you, because my offer and my conversation with you will allow you to be empowered with your other offers. I know I'm the best option for a very specific person. But regardless of whether I buy your house or not, you could take my offer and push harder on the other people, which is actually diabolical. Why? Because now they want to stay on the phone with me. The longer they're on the phone with me, I build rapport. I actually give them something of real value, which is a written offer that they go and do what? They go, well, this guy's willing to pay $75,000 more than you. What does that do to the other people? And then they come back to me anyway. So that's, if I was going to use a tactic or a strategy, that's how I would do it. Also, there are people in here. I'll tell you very specifically, if I could pick out everybody in this room, not everybody should be making calls and submitting offers. You might not be one of them. Can I tell you why? Everybody does. I hate cold. I actually have only cold called in my entire life maybe 20 minutes.
But I'm actually very personable and I care about people, but it's like an in-face situation. Like over the phone, I can't.
Makes sense. You also are sophisticated, which means you might be able to just step right into the buyer box, right? Like you should never go through what I went through to get into the business, not because what I did was wrong, but what I did is wrong for you. What I did was jump in and create active income by wholesaling a lot, fixing and flipping a lot, because I wanted to get out of construction, which is what I was stuck in. And so I had to go find active income to justify my place in real estate versus you have an active business right now. You want to get rid of that business? No. Then I want you to write this down with your little red pen. I want you to write down, don't ever cold call and don't do lead gen. Think about this, Ashley. Ashley, what's your last name?
Vizera.
Vizera? Like V-I-S?
Z-Z-E-R-R-A.
Damn. All right. 2 Z's in your name?
Yeah.
That's gangster. Okay. So, Ashley Vizera. What I would be doing if I were you is I would just go, I'm a buyer, and I'm going to go look at these 3 different types of assets: RV parks, tiny homes, mobile home parks. I'm just making those up. Whatever gets you excited. And you might have to date some of these for a little bit, like, oh, I don't like mobile home parks because of this, but I like them because of this. So I'm going to keep that on the plate. I really like RV parks because they seem really fun, and I now am digging deep into the vault in the RV parks or digging deep in the mobile home parks. I really like tiny homes because I'm a girl, and girls like tiny things. I don't know what it is. It's weird. The tiny home thing is like dominated by women. It's the wallpaper, it's the shiplap, I don't know what it is, but they're cute as hell. So I don't know, whatever those 3 things are that you're interested in, I would date those for a couple of weeks, and I would talk to people in Owners Club that are doing them, and I would interview them and go, why do you or do you not like this asset type? Cool. And what I would do is I would immediately go, can I bring a deal to you that we partner on where I just get maybe 10, 15% equity? That's what I would do if I were you. The deal doesn't even have to be brought from your negotiations. It could be brought from somebody in the community going, I have an RV park and I have a lead on a seller, and you are the person that brings it to Dave Lisi or somebody else. You don't need to be the person negotiating. You just don't. I would skip a lot of the single family stuff. Who is the single family stuff for in our community? Usually younger people, or people that are like, my active income that I have in my job right now is scaring me to death, and I need active income right now. You don't need active income. I already know that about you. How do I know that? I'm a human whisperer. I know things about you that are weird. I can tell based on the way people sit, they dress, they speak, they hold themselves. I can tell exactly what your financial situation is. I can tell. Like, I read people like a book. It's all I do for a living. It's what I do for a living. So if I were you, I would be learning these structures from an angle of, I'm going to be a buyer, and I want to make sure I'm applying the right ingredients to buy and acquire the deal with the best structure. But you are not ever going to be in the box of negotiating, being in the living room. You are past that. I was not past that. I needed active income. So in our community, we have about 20,000 SubTo members. About 5,000 of them are working on actively knocking doors, cold calling, skip tracing, sending out messages, LOIs, doing all of these things. They then bring deals to people in Owners Club or maybe higher level people. I would immediately step into that box and go, how can I pair up with an Owners Club member and just bring active deals to the table and wedge myself into a relationship with a Dave Lisi or somebody else? Does that make sense? Skip the negotiations. You don't need to be doing that. I did that because I needed active income. And I wish I could explain that to every member, because what happens is like, oh, I should be bird dogging. And I'm like, you're a doctor. You make 700 grand a year. Do not bird dog for 1 minute. Then I get somebody's brand new and they go, oh, I'm just going to buy an RV park. I go, your rent is due in 3 days. Get your ass on bird dogging. What are you doing? Right? And so when people are like, you have too much. No, I have the perfect amount. The problem is people don't know how to communicate with themselves. I know how to read everybody individually and go, you should do this, you should do this, you should do this, you should do this, but I can't do that. They have to be adults. The best way to do that is understand what I just said and then apply it to themselves. Does that make sense? I wish I could spend the time and just read everybody. In fact, what happens when I'm at SubTo gatherings, people will just, Pace, read me, tell me what to do. Because I'm good at it.
Also, you're a closer, right? That's why you got into negotiations. You love that.
I love people, and I love helping. I love the heroin that goes through my veins. I call it helper's heroin or helper's high. I get a high from helping people achieve their dreams. And that's, for me, it started with sellers. Then it started with my private money lenders. Then it went on to my partners. Then it went in my team. And then I just love helping people get through their stuff. And I also used to be a lot less brash. I'm a little bit brash with you because I have to speak fast because there's people watching on Zoom. I've learned how to speak, and I come off a little bit abrasive when I'm educating and I'm on stage because I understand there's 400 people here, so I'm doing 5 things at the same time. I'm trying to give you attention while teach other people and entertain at the same time. When you and I are by ourselves or in a smaller gathering, I don't talk as fast and I'm not as brash. I go, hey, can I tell you what I would do? And I communicate differently. But if I do that, I lose people's attention. So sadly, I have to come across brash sometimes. Okay, Kristen says, if the end buyers in the community or owner club wouldn't already see the deals. This is such a small-minded thing. Can I tell you guys something? People that are doing deals they're so busy running their deals and their parks and raising money and doing everything else. They desperately need you to stop thinking like a child. In fact, they get on the side of their bed and they pray at night, please, God, help these new SubTo members with this broken mindset that believe I'm standing there looking at deals all day long, like I don't have employees and I don't have an RV park and I don't have people to raise money from and I don't have this and that and da-da-da-da-da. And please let them know that I just wish they would take a little bit of action and bring me a deal that they think that I already saw. Does that help? Now, if I'm like, damn, I need 10 grand next week, not you. You could not pay me to go chase $10,000 next week. You couldn't give me 50 grand to go, hey, go after 10 grand. It's a different avatar, right? At one point, there's Josiah, my business partner. At one point, Josiah and I were chasing single family deals for years and years and years. I met him actually on a property. I was a contractor. This is how I met Josiah, my business partner. He was wholesaling, doing daily wholesale deals. You couldn't pay the guy 100 grand to go chase a wholesale deal right now. You elevate through wholesale. You elevate through fix and flip. And fix and flip becomes kind of a side project for you. But when you're brand new, you're like, I need wholesale, I need bird dogging, I need fixing and flipping, I need daily activity transactions. Then you step into a different box and why do you deserve to skip all of that, Ashley?
Maybe because I have a little bit of experience with real estate and already have an income from somewhere else.
Forget about the real estate thing, it's income from somewhere else, okay? So the reality is you are not skipping it, my friend. That is actually the answer. You are not skipping it. You just chose to do different active income to allow yourself into this box. You still had to go through the active income struggle, did you not? It was really easy for you, right? Like you just snapped your fingers and things just happened. Dude, you busted your butt for all those months, if not years and years and years and years. Second guessing yourself, imposter syndrome, taking action, not taking action. Guess what everybody else has to do in the active income bucket in real estate? They have to go through all that stuff. You already went through it, and now you deserve to stand here. You did not skip it. And I want you to understand that. You went through it, it just was in a different industry. Make sense? Okay. So other people that are new in the community are like, well, I just want to buy a deal. Okay, then don't complain about your bills. If you're complaining about your deals, go to the daily dial. Do daily transactions. If you're like, I need active income right now, then go into those strategies. You have 25 active income strategies. If you're like, dude, I'm good. You get a lot of women that join the community that are like, I'm a kept woman. I have a lot of women in the community that are like, I'm a kept woman. My husband makes a lot of money and I'm good. Like if I buy one deal in the next 18 months that brings in $7,000 a month in income, I can sit back and relax. I just want to get to know people, find the people who are bringing deals. You have to find out where you should be sitting. Do I have a seat for every type of avatar in this community? Yes or no? I do. So when people say it's overwhelming, no, you are not aware of who you are. That is the truth. If you're showing up to the daily dial thinking I should learn how to negotiate with sellers, that is not too much. That is you going, oh crap, I'm not in alignment with my assignment. Your assignment is buying deals and partnering with higher level people because you've already gone through the active income. Does this make sense?
When I started the RV Park Challenge and they were telling us our avatars, I felt as I was the prospector connecting people.
Yeah.
like what you're saying, but when I would go to execute that, I would feel like I don't understand the structures, and I would tell myself like, oh, I need to start from zero. I need to like do these creative finance deals so that I can articulate it and feel confident in like the structure.
I think what you're doing right now in learning some of the structures and some of these stories is probably all you need to be the prospector. That's it. Okay. Is this helpful for other people? You're like, oh crap, I'm probably spending time on things I shouldn't be spending time on. Okay. I've only said it 500 times, but that's okay. I'll keep saying it.
It's in the Zoom ball.
It is definitely in the Zoom ball. It's in the Zoom ball. Honestly, I look at this and I'm like, why are other SubTo members not explaining this to other SubTo members? Like, I have 500 people on here. Like, why do I have to ever say this again? I don't know why I have to keep saying it. Am I just the best educator on the planet? I don't think so. I guess. Okay. Seller finance. Okay. Let's talk about single family for just a second again to solidify this. Why is single family a good thing?
So many deals.
Frequency of transactions. If you need a paycheck like really quickly, where should I be spending my time? Single family. Okay. Now single family, I'll do a whole Zoom for the 85th time on just all the single family ways to make money. Bird dogging is only one of them. So is orbit. So is wedging. So is a lot of other things. But there's a lot of people that go out and do door knocking. We used to do door knock challenges. You could cold call. You could send out direct mail. There's 1,000 different ways you can go get single family deals. Also, the No One Left Behind challenge that I do every month inside this office, and I fill the whole entire room up, usually is a single family challenge where all we're doing is calling hundreds of sellers and getting deals under contract. So working with real estate agents is really, really awesome. The story I'm about to talk about on seller finance is one of my favorite deals because it changed my life. This deal changed my life in a lot of different ways. But it also highlights where you can participate when you're just starting out. So this deal is Glacier Peaks. I bought this in 2022. Where it came from is a brand new SubTo member. He brought me a lead. What would you call this activity? Yep, I knew you were going to say it. That is not bird dogging. Can I tell you when? Guys, please go home and never use the word bird dog for what I'm about to teach you, okay? There is a hierarchy of lead type, okay? You got suspect. You've seen me talk about this. You got prospect. You got lead. Suspect means I drove by an ugly house and I suspect they might want to sell. Have I talked to them yet? No. I talked to them. They said they're interested in having a conversation. That would now be a prospect because I have prospected. I've done something. Lead means they're willing to negotiate either on cash or on creative terms. It now becomes a lead. They're open to conversations around an offer. Make sense? What comes after that?
Deal.
Contract.
Oh, there you go. Contract. These are words people use so incorrectly. Okay, a deal is a word you should almost never use. Problem is, deal is the word everybody uses for everything. Pace, I have a deal. Will you call my seller? If you have a deal, why would you need me to call the seller? It's already under contract. Oh no, it's not under contract. Oh, it's not even a contract? Okay, well, what was the last thing you said to the seller when it was a lead? Oh, I've never talked to the seller. See what I'm talking about here? Welcome to new people words. They all use this word, deal, for all of these. Okay, suspect means I just saw that it's for sale. I suspect they might want to sell. Prospect means I actually did some work. Lead means they said they're willing to have a conversation. Okay, so Ashley, you just teeing up leads. Lead would be me calling on Crexy or talking to brokers. This could be an hour a week. You're in this awesome world where you fought really, really hard in your business to get to where you deserve to be right now. I want you to remember that. You deserve to be where you are. Don't feel like you skipped any steps. You did not skip any steps, okay? It's an important mindset to have. I wish I told myself that earlier.
Paid for it.
Yeah, you paid for it. So I want to bring a lead to somebody because I'm not ready to get it under contract. And you rarely will ever have a deal. And the reason being is because when it becomes a deal, somebody just buys it. So when people go, I have a deal I need help with, that is the wrong word to use. Because a deal means that it's so worthy of being a deal that somebody should have already bought it from you. When we use the word deal, we should say, I just got a deal. Not, I have a, like in the side chat, Scott says is the same as DTS versus DTA. Yes, DTS is direct to seller versus direct agent. Same exact thing. So contract. When somebody says, I have a contract I need help with, does that help me understand what their problem is? Yeah. It does, because now I know they need what? They need a buyer. A deal means they already have the buyer and it's already agreed upon. That's a deal. We're done. Deal's done. If I go to Walmart, for example, and I see my Walmart greeter and he says, Pace, there's a deal on eggs in the back aisle. I'm like, damn, I buy a lot of eggs for my family. I run all the way back to the egg aisle and it's a dozen eggs for $8,500. Is that a deal? So should we be using the word deal for something that's not priced accordingly? A contract means I have something under contract and I need somebody to help me find a buyer. But when you say I have a deal, that means it's already priced so well or structured so well that you've already sold it to your buyer. That means I just did a deal. This word should be used very, very sparingly. Can I get a yes from everybody in the side chat, please? Everybody that's watching live, please never use these words incorrectly, because when you're asking for help, okay, when somebody says, I need help. Okay, cool. What do you need help with? Well, I have a deal. I'm just wondering, what do I do with it? So you don't have a deal. You have a contract. No, I don't have a contract. So what do you need? I need somebody to call my seller. Just say, hey, I suspect somebody might want to sell. Will you help me make my first initial call? Yes, you're asking for a completely different set of help than you are for somebody who says, I have a contract. I need somebody to help me find a buyer. See, the activity could not be further away from each other. Okay? The reason I bring this up is because Jordan, who joined SubTo in January of 2022, comes to me in January of 2022 and he goes, I have a deal you got to look at. Sick. Like, you want me to look at the deal you bought? No, I have a deal that I think you could talk to the broker. Why would I talk to the broker on your deal? He's like, I'm confused. I go, yes, I know you are. What's your next step? What do you need help with? He goes, I need somebody to talk to my broker. I'm like, oh, okay, so you have a lead. He goes, yeah, I have a lead. Cool. And he did. He had a lead. The broker says, I'm open to a conversation about creative finance. And so I went and flew to this park. It's a $5 million purchase. Where did he find the lead? It's an RV park. Craxi is a really big place that people find stuff. By the way, do we find deals on Craxi or do we find brokers that you build relationships on Craxi?
Broker.
Primarily brokers. A lot of the deals you have on there, they're not going to work out, but the relationship with the broker is going to get you the next one sent to you. Most deals actually don't go on. Ryan, you worked commercial for a long time and you still do. Would you say that most deals on Craxi and LoopNet are actually bad deals? Yeah, mostly. So like most of the time they don't make it there. They make it that a broker will send it to Ryan and go, hey, look at this before they go put it on a Craxi or something else. Okay? So Craxi is not really where great deals go. It's where brokers are like, I need help selling this deal. I need all the eyeballs I can get. And so they go put on Craxi. And so look at Craxi as a way to build a relationship with the broker. Okay?
So is Craxi better than LoopNet? Because LoopNet, people joke and say that's where good deals go to die.
That's people that don't know creative finance.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's the traditional people. LoopNet is where traditional people can't get deals done, but it's where creative finance thrives. So 2022 comes to me. 2 weeks later, I'm on the property with the broker. Jordan thought, I want, Ashley, this is me giving you permission. And this is also for other people too. Jordan thought this RV park was multifamily. RV park is not multifamily. It is not even the same asset class at all. He's like, Pace, I have a multifamily opportunity for you. I'm like, cool, send me the thing. I go, this is an RV park. He goes, yeah, multifamily. That is how little he knew about this business, and you're worried about knowing all the structures. Don't let that stop you, okay? Please, 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 please. So I fly out, I meet with him. It's a $5 million purchase. You think I'm willing to fly out to a place and do that? I'm doing that next week for somebody. This is in 2022. I'm in 2026 right now. I'm flying out next week to Lubbock to go meet with a brand new member and their seller. I will happily do the same thing for you, or other people in Owners Club will do the same thing for you. So I meet with the broker. Broker says, yeah, he wants to do creative finance, but he wants a lot of money down. We go back and forth and we structure it. The first thing that the broker wanted, or the first thing that happened was this. The broker said the seller was interested in seller finance. And what ended up happening is the broker did not know how to explain anything to the seller. And I went back and forth with this broker for weeks and weeks and weeks. And finally, I just called the seller directly because I realized that the broker was no longer, had no listing agreement with them. They had fallen out of listing. So I called the seller and I said, hey, Eric, my name is Pace. And I've been trying to work a deal with your broker. And I'm just wondering, what is it that I'm missing on my offer that would get us to do a deal? What do you think Eric says?
Who are you? What are you talking about?
I have no idea what kind of offer you're talking about. This happens a lot with creative finance and real estate agents. They're like, nope, they're not interested. What is the broker really saying? I don't know what the heck you're talking about, and I want to get a deal done, but could you just give me a cash offer that I can go and present to my seller? That's all he wanted to do. So I call Eric, and Eric's like, well, what are you trying to do? And I go, well, I want to take you from being the landlord to the lender, and I want to help you save a bunch of money in taxes and make more money in the process. Eric's like, okay, what? You want to take me from the landlord to the lender, help me save money in taxes, and make more money in the process? How does that work? And I go, well, I noticed that you were trying to list the property for $5 million. I noticed that you were listed for quite a while, about 7 months, which is why I knew I could just call you and not violate your agreement with your broker. And I also noticed that you are now listed for $4.7 million, which tells me that you have a little bit of negotiating, and it also tells me that you're getting lower offers than even your 4.7. He's like, okay, so you've been doing this long enough. I go, yeah, I've been doing it long enough to know that you're probably going to trade this deal like $4.3, $4.4 million. And I haven't even, by the way, I've not underwritten. I just know that that's how things work. They're getting offers lower than what they're listing it for. And he's lowered it to 4.7, not because he's not getting offers. In 7 months, he's getting offers. It's because his offers were like 4.2, 4.3, but then the listing grew stagnant. He's like, let me refresh the offer, but just lower it to a point where it makes sense for me. Following? So I go, so I know you're listed at 4.7, but I have a way we can get you up to 5 million. And he goes, okay, well, what were you thinking? I go, well, and I explained to him the seller finance thing. I actually told him the F-150 story, and I was on the phone with him for like 25 minutes. And I said, but the most important thing for you, Eric, is you're probably retiring, and you're probably worried about your capital gains. He goes, yeah, I'm really worried about my capital gains. I go, I would list the property for $5 million if I was worried about my capital gains too, so it makes sense. He says, well, why, what? I go, you're listing it higher than you know it's worth, hoping that somebody's too stupid to buy it, and that the money you receive from the transaction helps you pay off your capital gains. He goes, yeah, kind of, like we knew we were stretching a little bit. And I go, okay, cool. Well, what if I can get you to the 5 million, but also help you wipe out your capital gains? And he's like, how does that work? I go, well, let's not worry about the CPA stuff right now. Let's just worry about, would you be willing to do a seller finance deal and give me low enough interest that I can make money on the park and I can afford to make you a monthly payment? That's it. He goes, yeah, I would be willing to do that. And I go, cool. And if I could show you how to get rid of the capital gains tax, would you be willing to do a no money down scenario? I could not get a no money down scenario. Why? Why do you think I could get no money down? He trusted me. He liked me. His CPA and my CPA had a conversation. He really liked me. There was no rapport issue. Why would he not be able to do a no money down scenario?
He needed something.
He needed something, but what was it? Let's talk about what could those things be.
Owed money.
He owed money to a family member. So that's a really hard thing to overcome. And so he said, we go back and forth for a couple of weeks. Here's the first thing he did. He said, well, why don't you just go get a loan? Like, why do you need my money? And I explained that to him. Speed, this, convenience, loan, I get tapped out on loans, da-da-da-da. Okay, we overcome that. And he goes, why don't you just assume my loan? I go, hey, Eric, I'm okay with an assumption, but I want to get your bank and me and you on a call, and let's talk through the process of how long that would take. I already know how long it would take. For single family, 6 months. For commercial, it's 11 months. So am I going to convince him of that? No. The best thing to do is go, I'm open to it. So I even said, I'm open to it. Let's do it. Knowing what he was up against. So we get on the Zoom. I asked the lender, hey, how long will this assumption take? They go, well, the last one we did was 9 months. And I go, great. So that's typical. Knowing it's not. And they go, no, that was actually like really fast. Their average is about 11 months. So Eric's texting me while we're on the Zoom. He's like, we're not doing an assumption. I don't want to be in this for 11 months. Then the worst part on the assumption is they said, Eric, we have to go back in and audit your full business to then reapply you as a guarantor on the assumption. Every assumption requires the seller to still stay on as a guarantor. So an assumption doesn't make any sense for anybody. It literally does not make any sense. The only thing that people like about an assumption is that it puts the buyer on the hook on the actual loan, and they feel like that adds the credibility. And I guess it does, but it's painful, right? So we go through that. The next step is I tried to do no down payment. I'm like, look, Eric, I'm giving you $5 million, man. My CPA had a conversation. This is Brandon. And he'll show you guys the steps on how to get people to get out of seller finance. So I said, I want to do no down payment. I'm giving you a high purchase price. I'm helping you out with the taxes. I'm doing all these things. I'm even giving you 4% interest.
Thank you.
He says, no, I have to have a down payment. We go back and forth. And I go, tell me what am I not understanding here, Eric? I'm giving you what you need. I'm throwing in the ingredients. I feel like I've cooked up the perfect thing for you. Right? This is what creative finance is. I'm throwing ingredients in, right? $5 million purchase price, 4% interest, 15-year balloon, X, Y, and Z, blah, 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 close escrow here, hold back here, blah, blah, blah. All these things we're throwing in to make this thing nice for him, and he would not relent off the $250,000 down payment. I just need the money pace. I want security, security, security. I'm like, Eric, I've already told you the best security is making sure I get a good deal. What am I missing? He finally goes, I have a brother that is in a horrible situation, and he's my partner on the deal. He put $250,000 into this deal years ago, and he's in a horrible marriage, a horrible divorce. This guy needs out of this deal, and I go, got it. No problem. So what did I do? How did I come up with the $250,000?
Ask the community.
I asked the community. And so what I did is I bought it for $5 million. I brought in $250,000. I structured this as a private money lender, 0 equity. I paid 12% interest, and I structured a 36-month note. Remember what a note is, right? Okay, so private money lender, they're making 12% interest. How did I pay off that $250,000? Well, this park nets $26,000 a month. Net. That's not what it brings in. That's what it puts in my pocket, okay? So this park makes me $26,000 a month. So what I did is over the course of 18 months, I took no paycheck for myself, and I accumulated my $25,000 payment every single month. I was bringing in money. We put it into an escrow account, and within 18, 19 months, we paid off all the private money lenders early. And then I asked them to put money into a different deal, and I kept moving their money around, okay? Any questions about this? Now, Jordan, who brought the deal to me, this is important. I wanted to tell the story for Ashley and people who are like Ashley. Jordan got paid $60,000 from this deal. So I gave you two numbers. I said $250,000. The park makes me $26,000 a month. Why did it take me 18 months to pay it off?
$60,000.
There you go. I not only raised money to pay Jordan, I raised money to pay the closing costs. I raised money even to pay myself money on the day I acquired the park. So I actually ended up raising $350,000 total. And that is why it took me 18 months to pay it off. So I then went to Jordan, Ashley, and I said, Jordan, if you find me a second park in the next couple of months that's near this park, I will retroactively give you 10% of this park and a finder's fee on the next one. Think Jordan found me a second park?
No.
2 weeks later, found me a second park a mile away from this one. I own both of them. That one I bought subject to. We'll talk about that one in another day. But I bought this on seller finance, and a guy who did not even know what multifamily versus RV parks got paid $60,000 and 10% equity. What does Jordan get every year on this park in his pocket? He gets 10% of my net. My 10% of my net is $300,000 a year on this park, 25 grand a month roughly. Jordan gets a check for 30 grand every single year for the rest of his life on this park. Pretty cool, right? Guess what else he gets? 10% of the appreciation, 10% of the tax benefits, 10% of the pay down, right? That mortgage is going to get paid down. 10% equity is a massive amount of money when you give it enough time. Does that make sense? Now, that's not the best part. The best part, Ashley, and my Ashley type people. This is for the Ashley type people. What's the best part about this is Jordan now owns a park with me. So what does he do when he goes out to talk to other brokers? Now Jordan owns 5 RV parks and has bought handyman businesses and other things with Creative Finance. He's been in the community since 2022. So Jordan now owns 5 RV parks. How does he go get through the credibility on those? He owns this with me. He doesn't need to call me anymore. Did he give me slices of those next deals? No. Now, Jordan brings me in when he needs my help. I'm in the middle of a deal with Jordan right now, but why would Jordan need my help right now? He's doing a Morby method deal, which we won't talk about for a couple of weeks, but he's doing a Morby method deal, and he needs a credit sponsor. Okay, Morby method is a creative finance strategy I invented 13 years ago, and it does require credit. So I'm going to be a credit sponsor for him on a property near these properties. So he brings it to me when he runs into a bigger problem. Okay, but what did Jordan do? Did Jordan go out and start doing wholesale and fix and flip and all that kind of stuff? Or did he go, I have active income. I want to start owning things. And so he participated in what we call the wedge method. And so I would go watch the wedge method training. There's a bunch of it that is specifically your avatar. You should be wedging in with people. What did Jordan do here? He set an appointment with a lead for me. I did the negotiation, the credibility, I bought the deal, I run the deal, my team runs the asset. Jordan got 10% equity and $60,000. Does this make sense?
Nice.
Is this what you should be doing?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, go ahead.
Is this something you should have a buyer for also before you start?
Yes, you should have a buyer lined up before you start this stuff.